This is the South Florida Radio Network.
Following the Big Red Texaco star, the three wise guys bearing Frankenberry, Sensen, and a Clock Radio come to witness the birth of the baby Jesus.
Ow! Is it a girl?
No, it is Jorge Rodriguez, the baby Jesus. And now...
Don't cut!
What?
Don't cut!
But it is... Don't you know there are tribal civilizations that eat this?
Hello, George Rodriguez, baby Jesus. Welcome to Bethlehem, Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm. Who's that kid over there?
That's Alien. He also claims to be the baby Jesus.
Hey, kid.
Yes?
What's your name again?
I am Alien, the baby Jesus.
I'm going to be late for the show. Can anybody tell me where the nearest creek is? I have to float down to the station.
You will find the flowing waters of Coconut Creek to the north.
Okay.
Here is a basket and swaddling for you, my lord.
Thanks.
The baby Jesus George then floated wistfully along the Coconut Creek.
Oh, this. I'll never make it on time.
Hey, look! He walks on water. Hey, Pally, you need a ride?
Thanks.
And so he climbs aboard the malfunctioning elevator to spread his legs for you.
Sometimes I feel it lies passing me by. Sometimes I feel that people don't know how to smile. But when I listen to your show, you make me laugh like sharp. And when I listen to your show, a new Rogers on the radio.
I must... Hola. My name, Carlos. I must tell you... Jorge is very ill, and he will not be in today. So... I will try very hard to do this show. And I promise I will grow up here and sound better than before. Now, I will play bits for you and make you happy and take a call to... There is a phone ringing. Hola.
Hey, what's up, Beaner boy? Great show.
Gracias.
Say, do you have that Bridge Tender song?
A song?
Can I hear that Bridge Tender song?
I will play that as soon as I remember her name. Goodbye. There is another call. Why do they call? Hola.
Hey, got any jingles?
Let me see. Yes. I see jingles in this, yes.
I want to hear some jingles.
Okay. Gee, he was a great caller. Don't you think so, ladies and gentlemen? For him, play a classic jingle. Here it is, you see. La la la, la la la, la 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 la. Wonderful to lucky now we go to break now.
Yeah, I got a bottle of 12-year-old doers in here. I'm going to work today.
Hey, I could use a shot before the show.
Get him one. After yesterday, you and I playing Scrubs.
That was footage shaken up.
That was footage of Carlos when I asked him and slapped him twice across the face and asked him if he knew who I was.
Here's the
play that again. Listen. Carlos, you know who I am? Carlos, you know who I am? Carlos, come on, Carlos.
Hola.
Carlos, you want a bong hit real quick? How about a bong hit? Okay, you feeling better? You know who I am? Is your girlfriend a whore? How do you feel?
Yes.
About 30, man. How you feel, dude? You know who I am? Hey, dude, you're spitting blood out of your nose and mouth. How's your orbital bump? Want a bong hit?
Let me tell you, proof positive that I was so rattled, I forgot to take pictures of his bloody face with my phone.
Oh, that is...
See how slow I am? See how we're distracted?
You really did coif in that situation. Because we would have gone from ass, mullet, muffin face to this is what happens when you take too many drugs.
What?
I don't know. No comment.
Nobody said that. Who said that?
There's no
They're just speculating over here. No, we don't know anything.
Testing. Anyway, Zach's crying in here.
My blue baby car.
License and registration, please.
Hola, I am Carlos.
License and registration.
You do not understand. I am Carlos, world famous beaner boy. Beady, 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 beady. See? I play with you for no extra charge.
License and registration.
Do you not know who I am? I am
Deploy from the vehicle.
It is I.
Deploy from the vehicle now with your license and registration, please.
These things I do not have. But it is not a vehicle. It is my blue baby Honda.
All right. Hands behind your back.
Do not hurt me. You are searching my anal cavity.
Have a problem with that?
No. You will find it is very clean.
Come on, we're taking you downtown.
Where all the lights are bright.
Let's go, Beaner boy.
Wait. Don't I get a phone call?
All right, but make it quick.
It's in my satchel here. I think that stripper stole my phone.
All right, Beaner boy, let's go.
I sentence you to 50 years for being a public annoyance. You cockamamie Cuban.
Gracias, ya Judy. Welcome to Hialeah, Santa Ana. My name is Carlos. Get in there.
Hey there, sister.
This is not a good day.
What do you know? What do you say?
What are you in here for, Mo?
That was my marquee you smacked into. I was gonna find you, but I couldn't find you, so I killed Zach for good measure.
Please do not hurt
me. Hey, Tyson.
Yo, who we gonna bag, Mo? Who we gonna bag?
Get a load of the fresh new meat over here.
Gonna have me some giblets? Gonna have me some giblets, ain't I, Mo? I'm gonna have me some giblets.
Why, sure. We're gonna have you some giblets right now. Get the broomstick, Tyson.
I got the stick. Please do not hurt me.
Little boy, I told you he was clean.
It smell like baby perfume. Don't it smell like baby perfume, huh?
I know. It makes me so horny.
Wow, 12:07, SoFloRadio.com. Jorge Rodriguez, Boca, Brian, Monica is over here, and guests, as they call in. I don't know exactly who's going to be calling in. Chuck Meyer said that he would. That's the one firm positive that I got. And just 30 seconds ago, Boca, Brian, I hung up with Craig Worthing.
Okay.
Who finally called me back. Relatively quickly. I guess that's not, it wasn't too much of a delay. And we're going to set it up. I think he's going to be our in-studio guest on Wednesday, at least him, possibly more. I'm just not sure who's in town. And I forgot my little notebook that has the list of names. You know, I got the show notebook with show topics, but I got my little to-do list notebook, and I left that at home because I'm an idiot. Because otherwise I was going to give you a full update of who I've contacted and who I have yet to contact and who I need contact information for, because the audience has been coming along really spankingly.
Yeah.
Is that even a word? For example, with the Craig Worthing phone number, I had no idea how to get a hold of Craig Worthing. Stan said no. Which I guess took me a little bit by surprise, although Stan said that you ought to know why. No, I don't, really, Stan. Maybe you want to come on the air and talk about that. I guess not.
No!
Stan said he's no friend, and he opted out. I invited Stan. Stan is one of the people that I would have inside the studio, because certainly he and Neil worked together for many years. That's the order of things. If I like you a lot, or if you worked with Neil for a lot of years and you have, a particular insight, and you live in town, that warrants a studio visit. Otherwise, a phone call is fine. Or obviously, if you live out of town like Chuck Meyer, I forget where it is that he lives, Facebook is a good resource for all of those things. So I'm going to keep my eye on the phone. And if Chuck calls in, I'll send you a little message, and then you can just, stop the bits, or at least, discontinue the next one. How's that? I don't want you to stop something in the middle of it.
Well, no, break right in. I'll just stop.
No, just play the remainder of whatever it was that you were playing. Speaking of what you were playing, I forgot all about the Beaner Boy show that you did. That brought some memories back. And what was that Pharrell clip that you played there?
That was sent to me by a listener.
Pharrell visiting the show when I was filling in?
Yeah. Remember, you did several crossovers with him.
Yes. We did, and that was good. Thank you. And listeners, if you have things like, hey, Brian, that listener out there, I told him, I wrote him back, and I said, because he's got a lot of tapes that he recorded in high quality, I said, that's great, but if, neither one of us, Brian or I, have the time to listen to old tapes and get the good stuff. So if you have the ability to lift highlights, according to you, and I'll tell you the same thing that Neil told me, if it's funny. Yeah. You're a fan, you're a listener, you know the bits and the clips and the highlights that amused you, because that's the thing about talk radio. In 4 hours, and this is what one of the things that I had to explain to people who, like me, didn't like talk radio in the beginning. I said, in the 4 hours, you're talking about a live radio show, and it's not going to be funny every minute. There's a lot of setup, a lot of talk, a lot of in-between. There's a soap opera, and the funny things happen all by themselves spontaneously. That's why they're so good. That's why it's worth waiting for them to happen. It's not a play. It's not scripted. You're waiting for comic opportunities to arrive so that you can spike them. And
a lot of filler, too.
Sure.
I mean, there were some real turkeys on those dads that weren't even worth
Again, it was a 4-hour radio show with a maximum of 16 minutes of commercial material. So that was 44 minutes. If you add another couple minutes per break for a bit or two, that knocks it down to about 40 minutes of continuous talking. And if you think that's easy, y'all try it sometime.
Yeah, and they never do.
No.
Not even in the bathroom.
No, not even.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. And you can't really duplicate the situation. You go ahead and try to talk for 40 minutes straight without repeating yourself or without saying in front of a really large audience. And you can't take anything back. You can't make any mistakes. There's a comfort level that you can get into when you're in your bathroom or in a production room where nobody is hearing you and you have the ability to back that tape up and erase whenever you make a mistake. It's a comfort level. It's flying with a net as opposed to flying without a net. You look down and there's no net there and you go, and all of a sudden that trick that you could do routinely becomes much more difficult because you're freaking out. That's what live is. That's why not very many people can do it. That's why many people don't have the stones to do it. Most people don't. People who perform live like we are right now, you got to have a pair. What were you going to say, Boca Brian, before I so rudely interrupted you?
Well, it was just about the DATs. I have to do that in real time.
Yes. Because
this machine that I'm using is 15 years old, so you can't search or fast forward.
The computer generation people, they think they can. No. It's not
I have
like
to let that slowly creep over 4 hours.
Sure.
And let it load into the hard drive.
Real time. These kids these days, they don't know from real time. We had to do real-time dubbing, real-time recording. There was no, I'm just going to transfer that file over, that 4-hour file, that 5-minute file, that little thing that I just got done producing. No, I'm just going to drag it over to this other thing, and there you go, ready to go.
Yeah,
No.
Incidentally, if anybody's, maybe you do, I don't know, who would have the creeper for the radio station? Any of the creeper tapes. I know we stopped doing that after a while.
Oh, jeez. Who would have? Well, first of all,
are they anywhere?
No,
they erase?
They were only saved for a certain amount of time, usually a month. In the olden days when it was reel to reel, and you understand that the requirement there was not really a requirement according to the FCC. Radio stations did that to cover their own asses. And then eventually they stopped doing it because they realized that. Because here's a funny thing, little legal trivia. Everyone, get your notebook. If you slander someone on the radio, you have to prove that you were slandered, which means that you have to produce an audio copy of the radio program showing where you were slandered. There's the guy's voice. George said that Boca Brian is a child molester. There it is. I heard it. You have to produce that evidence. Most people don't sit there and record radio shows, but people found out that the radio station did, so they would subpoena the radio station's own creeper tape to use as evidence against the radio station. So radio station said, "Fuck that shit. We're not keeping creeper tapes anymore."
Well, the FCC said okay. They gave them a.
Yeah, well, there's no requirements. You got to record
the 96 telecom.
Yeah. I mean, think about how kooky that is. You have to have a recording of everything that you do, and you have to keep it. That was a very oppressive thing. Not that, some of us believe in industry regulations, but not like that. Some of us believe in industry regulations that amount to, fairness in the way that you do business. I don't believe in, gratuitous government regulations that are just designed to make more work and more expense for a company. That's no way to run a business. That sounds awful. What were you saying?
Well, there was one case where the creeper tapes came in handy, and that was when talk show host Alan Berg was murdered?
Yes.
And the creeper tape convicted the murderer.
Right. Oh, it's a double-edged sword. There's no question about it. I mean, the reason that radio stations started doing it in the first place was so that they could prove that they played a commercial at a particular time, in case someone challenged that. Of course, we do record everything, archive it. There it is, including our very first show, that 3-hour sound check with the distorted sound and the springy microphones going boing, boing, boing. So Chuck Meyer is supposed to be calling in, and get ready for this, Boca Brian. I'm going to have to choke this one down, too. A guy named Chamba, not Jamba, but a person named Chamba will be our musical representative today, representing Chamber of Dreams.
He's going to have to change his name.
I will be discussing my disapproval of his name.
Yeah.
You know how I envy pretty much everyone else's name. Everyone else's name is way more interesting than mine, except for this one. I'm going to say, hey, here's a name you couldn't pay me to take.
Oh, shit. You know who's going to call now.
Oh, I know.
You're going to have to get that block number blocked.
Of course. Of course. They don't scare me. So Boo Boo's catching on, by the way, speaking of nicknames. I got my 8-year-old daughter calling me Boo Boo now. Because she heard that. I was having a conversation with the family. And she thought that was funny, of course. So she
Did you make one?
Well, did I make a Boo Boo?
Yeah.
No, I made a Boom Boom.
Oh. I did too.
I went to see Neil. The audience doesn't know that yet. I went to see Neil on Friday. And it was sad. It was very sad. I don't want to go into a lot of detail because the people around Neil want privacy, and that's that. And I'm not going to say where he is or go into any detail. Like I just said, try not to repeat yourself. Try not to repeat yourself. And it was very sad because, first of all, he wasn't awake for the time, maybe a little bit. I got him to say okay. By telling him, hey, we got to go cut a spot, okay? Okay. Held up a finger and said, okay.
He heard you, though.
Yeah.
Of course he did.
Yeah.
I knew you read.
He repeated it. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Of course. And if I do let myself go back and go into detail, then I'll choke up, and that's no way to do a talk show. Because you can't do a talk show with a lump in your throat. And it made me really sad because, people around me, it's like, what? Well. And the only thing I can think of is, here's a guy, because Neil was never a physically imposing person. He was like 5'8". Everybody knows he used to be very fat, and then he lost the weight, and so he had kind of, the hanging waddle kind of a thing. I mean, not bad. He didn't have all this loose skin or anything like that, but Neil was never a large, imposing kind of guy with big, broad shoulders. He looked like your Jewish uncle. But he knew who he was. And everybody at the radio station, everywhere I was with Neil, except for the times that I was, went to his house to deliver a giant poster or something like that, and we hung out on the couch for a little bit. Other than that, everywhere that I was, whether it was a radio station or a public appearance or something, everybody knew who Neil was, and Neil knew who he was. So Neil walked with a confidence and a swagger and a presence that made it obvious that this was a VIP. And the people at the radio station had one of two reactions, but always a reaction. They would either dive out of the hallway if they saw Neil enter a hallway. They would dive out of the hallway so that he wouldn't see them. God forbid Neil should see me and talk about me, say something about my hair or my clothes or something. And then on the other extreme, people who wanted to curry his favor. Is that the right way? The right use of that word?
Yeah.
I know how to curry my pants, but
or Tim Curry.
Right. So people would dive in front of him. People would, oh, Neil, how you doing? It's so good to see you. Suck, 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 lick, 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 hoping to get a pat on the head. And very important to a lot of people that Neil patted them on the head for some reason. Especially like the salespeople. Very, just butt sucking. Very butt licky. And Neil, of course, you've met people that had giant egos. Whether it was deserved or not, Neil deserved every ounce of ego that he had. And he didn't use his ego to be a big, blowhard braggart off the air. He just didn't want to be bothered. That's what bothered Neil, being bothered. People walking into the studio all the time, kissing his butt. Hasn't gotten old to some of us yet, but apparently Neil got tired of that, like a lot of big shot celebrities do, get tired of having to glad hand all the time. Maybe I just want to sit and read this article. Maybe I just want to sit and watch this thing on TV. No, someone's over here, and bless their heart, they're a big fan and or coworker fan, and I got to sit here and listen to them praise me. Oh, you're so good. That's why I tell people about God. You really think that God wants to be praised? Maybe God doesn't have an ego problem. Maybe God is very secure. Maybe God doesn't need to be told by you that he's big and good. Maybe God already knows that. It's obvious. Maybe, look, I already know. You're not telling me, oh, you're so good. I love your show. Yes, thank you, person number 137 today. That took 5 minutes to say that. That means that's all I've done today is sit here and hold court and have people tell me how good I am. It's got to get old, I guess, and you can't really get much done. And I got to go to the bathroom, but I got this person here with stars in their eyes, and they're saying. So basically, Neil just wanted to be left alone. And that's all. That's the only time that he got like answers. Just keep people out of here. Keep people out of here. Which of course made a lot of enemies for me.
Yeah, who the hell do you think you are? Who the hell do you think you are?
Just doing my job, man. Because it can't be that Neil doesn't want to see them. It has to be that George is an asshole. It's unacceptable. Their mind will not allow them to accept or believe, like a lot of the people that call up that I would have to hang up on over the years. He goes, I don't want to hear that person's voice on my show again. That's what Neil would say during a break. Keep that guy off my air. Keep that guy off my show. And I would obey orders. That was my job. Oh, no. George is an asshole. It cannot be. It's inconceivable that Neil doesn't want to hear my voice anymore. It's inconceivable that Neil doesn't want me in the studio. That George is an asshole. He's just jealous. He's just territorial. That George is an asshole.
He's territorial.
Yeah.
The bird wasn't.
Right. I never had any overlapping with the bird whatsoever, all you bird heads out there. The bird was gone, I don't know how many months before I did show 1 with Neil.
That's the one thing I would have asked Major if he came on the show about. How did that happen? Because he was around in the bird days when that started, and no one could
I was there in the station. What? Figure what out? I know exactly how it happened.
It goes back WINZ.
What? How Bird came over? Why?
No, not WIOD. I'm talking years before that. It was around a long time.
I'm not sure I understand the question. I know the entire Bird story from Neil. Neil had
something to do with the Bird.
Had something to do with what? Getting him over there in the first place, or getting him fired?
Neil's show.
Neil told me that Glenn laid a big guilt trip on him. He's like, after you're gone, I'm not going to have this job anymore. I think we do a great job together. You're going over there. Aren't you going to want to have somebody to talk to? You've got all these people, the morning zoo thing going on over here. You're going to go over there and do a show by yourself. Wouldn't it be nice to just have one person there with you to co-host the show? And I have polio. He used it.
Okay, because...
and laid a big guilt trip on Neil. This is according to Neil. This is what Neil told me. If it's a lie, then Neil lied to me.
Well, that was a great...
Glenn laid a big guilt trip on me, and I didn't have the heart and he said, the show was going to be over, and that was going to be it for Glenn there. There wasn't going to be, a job for him there after the show, so Neil, brought him over.
Yeah, he was supposed to be part of the morning crew, and that was about it. And then he wound up with him on IOD when he got...
That's why he brought him over to IOD. He was the news reader, and then he would linger in the studio and cackle at Neil's jokes. And that was it. Worked his way into the show. And he talked himself out of that job. I know we're going late, but we're going to do long segments and long breaks. How's that? No, it doesn't matter. We're going to play it by ear. I got... I'm in an emotional state over here. In the emotional state of Florida. Here was a guy, and this was in I guess they went over there in like 88, 89, because I think that's, I started with Neil in 89, late 89, so they had to be there in like 88 or something.
Yeah.
And Neil got him $50,000 a year then. And he wasn't the producer. That's what a lot of people confused me and the Bird's role. I started interacting with Neil at Neil's insistence, but it was as the producer from the other side of the glass running all the controls and answering the phone. Glenn sat in the studio with Neil in front of an open microphone, ate free food, got $50,000 a year to laugh at Neil's jokes.
And he wasn't grateful about it, and that's what pissed Neil off.
And that's what pissed Neil off. It was a dream job. But then as the year progressed, Glenn got more and more uppity about how the show should sound. And this isn't just what Neil told me. We all watched this happen.
What was the name of the show?
The Neil Rogers Show.
Oh, thank you.
And so if Neil would talk about baseball, because Neil was a big Cubs fan in those days, if Neil would talk about baseball, Glenn would throw a temper tantrum. He would put his head down on the counter. He would moan, throw his arms up in the air. Oh, baseball again! Put his head down on the counter. Or he would walk out of the studio. Or if Neil used Glenn for the butt of a joke, which was, he did that with everybody. We all took our turn, sometimes daily, being the butt of a Neil joke. And he would storm out of the studio.
That really frost my ass a little.
Anything happening that Glenn didn't think was a good idea, Glenn would throw a temper tantrum, moan, put his head down on the desk, storm out of the studio, come back later. You're still talking about basically being a pain in the ass, being a bitch.
For $50,000 a year.
For $50,000 a year. And by the way, in those days, 1 to 3 restaurants a day. It was like several waves of food in the 4 hours. Yeah, Monica. Several waves of food. I got so fat. So fast. Unbelievably fast. Because look at this free food, and it was good. Good food from good places. Good Lord. Oh, my God. Steaks and kishka and deli food and just everything. People. And Neil, loved it. As a matter of fact, that was the first conflict. The first conflict where George almost got fired was over the food in the studio, and Gary Bruce wanted me to put a stop to it. And I'm like, what? Yeah. Tell the whole food in the studio story in a minute. Might as well start at the beginning. As we were doing the Neil Vigil here, start at the beginning of the Neil stories, George and Neil, the beginning of the Neil stories. That wasn't the first thing. The first thing was the how I got the job, I guess. And I don't know if I told that story in detail. I know I smacked on it. But that was the issue. That was one of the first things that happened there. That was going on before me. You know that memo, the Gary Bruce memo about how eating on the air is unprofessional?
Yeah.
And Neil read the memo with a mouthful of food. Made sure that... Yeah. Also before my time, but it was an ongoing conflict. It was an ongoing dilemma. And Gary Bruce decided to settle me with that. So back to the bird story. The other thing that the bird did, which just drove Neil nuts, is Neil was very, exacting about keeping the chronics off the phone. The guy with the eyes and all these retards, all these chronics, all these people that wanted to dominate the radio show. They wanted to call. They didn't just call every day. They called continuously throughout the day. They wanted to be Neil's co-host. They had no material. They had nothing funny to say. They're stupid. These are the people, just so that you know, these kinds of people, they're the kinds of people in school that were social misfits. They didn't know how to get positive attention from people, so they would settle for negative attention. You understand? The kids that would go up to other kids and flick their earlobes. Because they didn't know how to crack a joke that would get a laugh, so they would just fuck with other kids in order to get attention. And that was their role. They were the villains in school. The bullies had their own issues. These were the misfits that just did all of the wrong things to get your attention because they didn't know how to do anything right to get your attention. And everyone hated them, and they were the ones that were the butts of all the jokes, and they were the ones that the bullies beat up on because nobody was going to come to their defense because they were so obnoxious. These are the radio talk show chronics who call all day, every day. John Bob, people like that. Social misfits. And so Neil did a really good job of keeping those people off the air. He was militant about keeping those people off the show. Glenn would fill in for Neil. And not only would he take calls from these people, he would curry them. He would nature them. He would, he's using curry a lot today. I don't know. Somebody give me the right definition of the word curry. I know I'm...
Is it the pants? Is it because of the pants?
It is because of the pants. And when I get my degree in corrections, I'm going to be correcting myself a lot.
That big giant red pen you're going to be awarded.
Yeah, and a clipport. I'm going to be running around. I'm going to be a maniac. I'm going to say, hey, Monica, there's no D in genre. Anyway, things like that. That's it. I get $100 for that one. So, but Glenn would go on the air, and the guy with the eyes, and everybody that Neil hated. He would invite them to call. They would call, and here's the funny thing. He wouldn't just take their call and let them go on at length, but when the time came for a commercial break, he would put them on hold and come back with them. He would hold them over as if they were an honored guest, and they would insult Neil and rip Neil, and Glenn would just let them go.
Yeah.
Let them go.
Well, that wasn't long after the day of the lightning round. Now, you don't remember the lightning round.
I do remember the lightning round, and it was still going on. It ended shortly after I joined the show. Neil got tired of it shortly after I joined the show.
That was a failed experiment about getting all the chronics to get it all out on the air, and he blew through calls for about 10 minutes.
Right.
And it didn't work. They just kept calling.
No, exactly. They were assholes. It was a good idea, but, of course, chronics and assholes, they ruin everything. They ruin everything. Like Saturday Night Live, remember they had a support group for the people that ruin things? One of their good sketches from way back, they had a bunch of people in a group, and it's like, I'm the guy that ruined hitchhiking. Really? How'd you do that? It was like, well, I would hitchhike, and then I would kill the guy that picked me up. That was you. That was me.
Yeah.
There's a guy, what did you ruin? Public restrooms? Your ability to go use them? What? I would go into a public restroom and just piss everywhere. I would just pee on everything, pee everywhere. So now nobody, now you can't use a public restroom without going and getting the key attached to a cinder block and a permission slip and things like that. And these chronics are the ones that ruin radio talk shows. Like this one, 954-99-0036. So I guess that's it for the Glenn story right now. Is that a good stopping?
That's enough.
Stopping place? Okay, good.
Real quick though, did you see the video of that the gunman in Panama City? At
the school board meeting? Yeah, he's got bad aim.
Yeah, but did you see the woman
with the purse? Yes.
I love that. You go, girl.
Oh, they can't make up shit that's as funny as real life. And by the way, speaking of good Saturday Night Live sketches, they got 3 now for Julian Assange. The second one is hysterical. I'm Julian Assange. I'm here from my jail cell in England, and I'm here to tell you that America will hunt down any terrorist anywhere, unless, of course, your name is Osama bin Laden. And then he takes a sip of tea.
Was he petting a white cat?
No, but he ought to be. That's the only thing that's missing. Let's take a break. I'll let you know if Chuck Meyer calls in. I'm going to stalk him until he does. We're going to try to get Craig Worthing in on Wednesday. Got emails out, messages out to Jennifer Rem. Who else? I forgot my notebook, and you know me and my Swiss cheese head. Guitar Man, Boca Brian. Any response from him?
No, not yet.
Okay, well,
maybe this afternoon.
We'll get on him. Come on, Adam, call up and let's do some old-timey stuff. 28 till 1, SoFloRadio.com.
Do you know who we are? SoFloRadio.com.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. This here is the King. I know I haven't been around much for a while, but I want y'all to know that up here in rock and roll heaven, I'll be thinking of you this Christmas. I'd like to give y'all a special Christmas message. A message of peace. Like, how about a little piece of that pie going by? Thank you. Thank you very much. Like I was saying, Christmas is a time of hope, a time of joy, a time for loving. And I sure would love a big slice of that pizza you got there. Thank you. Thank you very much. No worry about that. Oh, yeah, Christmas. Now, Christmas to me means family. And family means friends. And friends means getting together. And getting together means eating. Oh, pass me that drumstick, would you please? Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Now, I just want to say to you right now, you know, I may be a big star, maybe too big. But ain't nobody so big you can't reach out a helping hand. Would you hand me a helping of those mashed potatoes over there, would you please? Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, like I was saying, ain't nobody so big you can't stoop to help a friend in need over the holiday season. Now, speaking of season, you want to pass me that salt sugar when you get the chance? Thank you. Yeah, just unscrew the cover, that's right. Thank you. Thank you very much. So this Christmas, why don't y'all take a tip from old Eos? No, leave those steak tips right where they are. You know what I mean? No, I appreciate it. Thank you. I want you to remember, we're all part of God's great big family. And you know God made man unto his own image. And look in the mirror, I'd have to say God must be a big, big son of a gun. You know what I mean? I think you do. But I especially want y'all to remember this one last thing. When you're all at home this Christmas, stringing that popcorn up on the tree, save a big, big bowl for the king. Extra butter, know what I mean? I think you do. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Are you online? Well, I don't go in for that computer stuff.
Then we're not interested in you. SoFloRadio.com.
When you're ready to actually lose weight safely and steadily while being monitored by a physician, the Weight Loss Clinic of Dr. Kim Jacobson is there for you. The family medicine practice was established by her father in 1956 and continues as a medical practice that now specializes in weight reduction. Dr. Kim Jacobson joined the practice 20 years ago as both a family medicine practitioner and weight loss specialist. The Weight Loss Clinic utilizes a combination of appetite suppression medication and vitamins to produce great results, usually 3 to 4 pounds per week for most patients. Now you can change your lifestyle while still enjoying your own foods, just less of it. They offer a choice of 2, 3, or 4-week plans. So whether you just need to lose a few pounds or a lot, the Weight Loss Clinic of Dr. Kim Jacobson can help you. They're located at 5454 Northeast 4th Avenue in Miami, just 2 blocks west of 54th Street and Biscayne Boulevard. Call them at 305-751-0091. They'll be happy to answer any and all of your questions. That's 305-751-0091. Get started on a beautiful new body today with Dr. Kim Jacobson and the Weight Loss Clinic.
Hi, this is the much-loved and revered Boca Brian. My new disc is called Boca Twist Party. You'll get all the songs that were banned after 2005. You'll get... And you'll get... But wait, you'll get... It's my 14-inch long super hard morning piss boner. And you'll get this too.
You know you make me wanna pull my pants down and...
Invest in your future now. These CDs will be worth a fortune after I'm dead and buried in the Oh Yeah, That Guy mausoleum.
A victim of a debilitating career disease known as Fraternity. Won't you help?
Boca Brian's latest release, Boca Twist Party, is available now on SoFloRadio.com. SoFloRadio.com. Give us a call at 954-99-00036. Mobile users call 954-990-0036. And for those of you living in the past, call Butterfield 990-0036. Skype name SoFloRadio.
This is your brain. This is your brain on drugs. This is your brain being chopped to bits by a finely honed meat cleaver. This is your brain in a blender. And this is your brain being stirred into a big pot of chili. Brains. Real food for real people.
It was the greatest TV offer ever, the fabulous Ronco Vagimatic. And now, attention ladies, in the labor-saving tradition of the Vagimatic, Bobbit Co. presents the all-new Vagimatic. Vagimatic, the first feminine hygiene product that offers more than just feminine protection. Here's how it works. Your husband Earl is an abusive, alcoholic loser, and he's come home again late on a Saturday night.
Hey, baby, it's me, and I'm ready to party.
Actually, dear, I'm rather tired. I'm going to sleep. You're drunk, and I don't want you to touch me.
Earl doesn't know it, but she's inserted her brand-new Vagimatic feminine protection device.
Let's boogie, baby. Ready or not, here comes Earl.
Earl, I must warn you, I'm wearing my new Vagimatic, so please leave me alone.
Vagimatic sounds kinky, baby. Let's do it.
I'm warning you, don't do that.
Oh, my God! Help me! I'm bleeding! Hey, my gone!
Sorry, honey, when I said no, I meant no.
Give me back my...
I don't think so. The Vagimatic slices and dices and a puree.
No, not puree!
They won't be able to sew that back on. It's Vagimatic, real feminine protection from Bobbit Co.
What are you going to do with my honey?
I'm making sausages. Here, Fido.
Oh, no, not sausages.
Vagimatic. Pitch the Ginsu knives. Throw out your machete and try a Vagimatic. It slices, it snips, it mutilates, and it's beltless. And it even makes julienne fries.
No, not julienne fries.
Vagimatic from Bobbit Co. Call now and receive a free pocket fisherman and our handy home suture kit.
Hi, I'm Lorena Bobbitt, and when it comes to feminine protection, nothing cuts the mustard like a Vagimatic.
Vagimatic. Order now. Call 1-800-866-7426. That's 1-800-86-ORGAN.
I know that the Lord even loves Neil Rogers.
feeling of despair. I looked for my pussy, but my pussy wasn't there. Well, 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 my cat fell in the well. Oh, puss, 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 kitty, 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 my cat fell in the well. I got out a ladder and I climbed down to my bed. I saw in a jiffy that my puss was soaking wet. Well, 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 my cat fell in the well. Oh, puss, 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 kitty, 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 my cat fell in the well. The doggone hole by the pump, was she puss, did she jump? There never was a kitty half as pretty as pussy that fell in the well. There never was a pussy that could quite compare with her. Pretty as a picture with her long and silky fur. Well, 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 my cat fell in the well. Well, oh, pussy, 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 poor kitty, 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 my cat fell in the well. If you have a pussy that you wouldn't trade or sell, never let her wander or she might fall in a well. Well, 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 my cat fell in the well. Oh, puss, 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 poor kitty, 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 my cat fell in the well. Well.
And now, the story of two androgynous rock stars who got to know each other intimately well. David Bowie and Mick Jagger. They were instantly attracted to one another. In fact, Bowie suggested to Mick, but Jagger made his own suggestion. When they got to his house, Bowie looked deep in Jagger's eyes and said, "Take your protein pills and put your helmet on." But Mick looked him in the eye and said, Bowie told him he wanted to stay over. How long? Jagger said later, that morning they were surprised by David's wife. Ooh, and when she walked into the room, Jagger sat up and said, "Oh, and you don't weep, all your kisses still taste sweet." Angie was upset. But Bowie quickly downplayed the incident, describing it to her like this. Wham, bam, betcha!
Hey, young man. Listen, I've seen you hanging around my house, and there's something I want to talk to you about.
What is it, Mr. Bates?
Listen here now.
Yeah.
I'm going to put it this way.
Yeah?
Was it you who did the pushing, put the stains upon the cushion, footprints on the dashboard upside down?
Say what?
Was it you Bronco Bill, been messing with my daughter Jill? If it was, you'd better leave this town.
Well,
what do you got to say?
Yes, 'twas I who did the pushing, put the stains upon the cushion, footprints on the dashboard upside down.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, but since I'm messing with your daughter, I've had trouble passing water, so I guess we're even all around.
Why, you? Come over here.
Good. I thought there was some glass breaking there at the end of that thing. That's why I waited. There was always glass breaking at the end of a Boca Brian bit. I should have known better because that wasn't one of them. Where the hell did that one come from, by the way? Do we know?
That one there, I think, is Jasmine K.
Oh, really? 13 till 1, by the way. SoFloRadio. I'm pretty sure that this was Chuck Meyer who tried to call earlier. So I'm going to try it. By the way, the new Skype, it really bugs me.
Hi, this is Chuck Meyer at 425.
No. Yeah, but the thing is... Yeah, well, I turned it down. Hey, Chuck Meyer.
When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options. To leave a callback number, press 5.
Tell him his pants are ready.
Chuck Meyer, Jorge Rodriguez, your pants are ready. Sorry I missed your call earlier. Call back, and I'll stop whatever I'm doing, and we'll just keep this up until we finally get you on our show. Thanks, Chuck. Bye. The new Skype changed its format, and I don't like it. I don't like it at all. This giant window came up. That's why I had trouble hanging up on that thing. We talked over that well enough, right? Nothing got out there?
I just found something.
What did you find?
Rick and Sud's creeper dat.
Really?
You'd be
That's very creepy.
Surprised what's coming out of these boxes.
Oh, my God. Some of us are pack rats, and I make no apologies for being a pack rat. Audio pack rat. I don't think there was no point in saving the reel-to-reels. I got a lot of.
Well, I got one of those. If anybody has a reel-to-reel,
right, exactly. There was no point, and even the DATs. I knew that Boca Brian was the last person in the universe to have a working DAT player.
Yeah, it runs on coal, by the way.
Coal powered. It's steam powered. got all these gauges there. Boca Brian Studio looks like a steampunk wonderland.
Never know when you're going to need them.
Got all these gauges. So I interrupted myself. I was waxing nostalgic because people are asking me for more details about Neil and how he's doing. He's not doing well, and the once proud, swaggering figure is very frail now.
Well, he didn't exactly swagger.
No, it was an attitude.
Yeah.
He walked fast. God forbid somebody should stop him in the hallway to talk to him.
I think what gave the impression he was swaggering was the fact that he put his car keys and wallet in one pocket. He was one of those guys, you know.
Yeah. Nevertheless, it's very difficult, and this happens to a lot of people and a lot of families when once powerful, imposing figures. And again, Neil wasn't very imposing physically to look at him. You just had to. But he did have an attitude, a very cocksure attitude, and deservedly so. And the frail person that's there now, obviously it's Neil. It looks like Neil. And but a shadow of what he once was. And for a lot of people wonder if he's going to be getting better. He's not going to be getting better. Okay, he's not. He's getting further away. So the curtain is closing, and we're going to do our best to. And I'm going to take my time of it, and nobody can tell me not to and how to deal with this. This is a very weird and difficult time for me. Holiday season, there's a lot of things to do. We got a lot going on with SoFloRadio, a lot of things requiring and demanding my attention right now, never mind just life in general. And but this is pretty much dominating my attention, whether I want it to or not. And so we're going to take as much time as we feel like taking, reliving the past and paying tribute to someone who's very important. Whether you liked him or not, Stan, whether you thought that Neil did right by you or not, he was a very prominent and instrumental figure in a lot of our lives, including yours, including mine.
It's stupid. I mean, it's like they work together. It's a working experience, that's all. Exactly. Even if you personally don't like the guy, there should be plenty of stories he has. I
use the Kill Bill analogy. I wish I could figure out learn how to use Skype. What a good idea. I don't even have our chat on here right now, Boca Brian. Did you do an update? Don't. Little Skype update?
Yeah, I did last week, and it really screwed everything.
Yeah, now what? I don't know what anything is anymore here. Give me back my
view. If you go in the view, it changes it back to what it should be.
Give feedback. You suck now. I don't want to see no videos. View. Recent. How's that? You're not even in there.
Hit Skype home. It'll bring it back to the original screen.
Really?
Yeah, somebody's justifying their position.
No, that's there. Right, yeah. Hey, look what I did. I redesigned Skype.
Yeah. Like the Adobe guy. Every day.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the last one we gave you was wrong. This one will be a lot better. Make your life easier, yeah.
So anyway, yeah, very, and I'm probably going to go see him again at some point, maybe today, maybe tonight, I don't know. I'm going to go as often as my schedule makes it possible.
That's a good idea.
And the powers that be, because, I'm at the convenience of other people's schedule as well.
So he was a little bit lucid then, when he did go in.
Well, I got one word out of him. I wouldn't call that a little bit lucid.
I mean, yeah, but
he was definitely making eye contact and following you with his eyes and.
Okay.
And I don't want to give up too many details because and It's not like, this isn't for the people out there with morbid prurient curiosity. Right. Very deeply affected by this. This is a huge. He was huge to people that never met him.
Right.
He was a huge and important part of the emails and the Facebook messages that I'm getting, and you're welcome, by the way, all of you, getting a lot of thanks, you and I, and everyone else. Me for hosting, and Boca Brian for spending hours upon hours going through those old dads to find these gems, things that I forgot ever existed. And listeners sending in bits, sending in copies of things that we can't find. Very, wonderful community effort going on here. But he was a big part of a lot of people's lives that never met him. Never mind some of us who spend every weekday with him, all day, every weekday. Talk about how big he might be in your life. And it was a very weird thing when the show came to an end. Talk about a lifestyle change. And they didn't just take away my job, they took away my identity. I got to change my name back now. I was going to legally change it to George from the Neil Rogers Show so that people would know who I am. And all of a sudden you're not. That's not you anymore because there is no show anymore. Asshole. George, formerly from the Neil Rogers Show. Had to put that in there. Just an added middle.
Formerly known as George.
Yeah.
You could get an infinity sign for it all over. Yeah.
Tattoo something to your face.
No, you got the red pants. You're in a good start there.
And people, and I don't know, I've told the story on the air before. I don't know if I've told it in great detail recently. You know who I got to write on the list is Marvin.
That shouldn't be hard to do.
I think I still have Marvin's name and number in my Rolodex. If my Skype was working, boy, I'd be, able to find something. I don't understand this new thing at all. Marvin was Neil's producer before me. First thing, because here's the thing. People in that radio station, Neil and was very polarizing. Everybody knows that. I'm not saying he had a lot of strong opinions about Neil one way or another, and that went for the producers and the other people inside the radio station. And most of the producers in there, it was very odd for me. I guess they thought they saw that it could be a plum. The producers that worked the show saw all the free food. And the part-time producers, like I was at the time, even though I'd been a DJ for 4 years, I come to this town, and in my naivete, I think that I can get an FM job. I send demo tapes out. I didn't hear the laughter at the time, but after I was back in radio again, and I realized how it worked in this town to get a DJ job, in retrospect, I heard all the program directors laughing at my demo tape as they threw it into the drawer, or in some cases we had a laundry basket where all the demo tapes go without being listened to. And those are the tapes that the program director would give you if you wanted to make an air check for someone. If a client wanted a copy of their commercial, you would go into the PD's office, and he would reach into the laundry basket of demo tapes and hand you one. A lot of times unopened envelopes. And he would just hand you an unopened envelope, and it was somebody's demo tape. Here you go.
Recycle.
And then I laughed. Realizing that this is where my demo tapes went when I tried to get an FM job in this town. I had to start back all over again from square one in talk radio. At least I didn't have to start all the way in square one. They started me as a part-timer, at least, and doing some production, cutting some commercials, this and that. Grunt work, slave labor, part-time, roving. So all the part-time producers, of course, wanted to work their way up to being a full-time, part-time board-up, full-time producer. Producer, not just a board-up, a lot of other responsibilities as well. And all of my fellow board-ups wanted to be one. And I was the lowest-ranked person when Neil was hunting for a new producer. And it's too bad that Stan doesn't want to be on the show, because Stan takes credit for being the person that suggested me to Neil when Neil wanted a different producer. And everyone had their crack at Neil, no pun intended, before I did. And I was asked to go in and work the Neil Rogers Show on at least 3 occasions before Gary Bruce started threatening my job. Oh, man, I got something to do today. I was scared shitless based on what I heard on the air and based on what I heard from the other producers. Scared shitless to work with Neil. Had one interaction with him. The first day that I was in the radio station, my very first training session was with Nick Lawrence. Nick was his producer at the time. Nick produced for Neil and Steve Kane. He just sat there and did the board for 8 hours, and then I guess he just lived at the radio station. Booked guests for Steve, everything. Nick, very cool guy, very mellow, very low-key, rock and roll. And I didn't touch anything. I just sat in there and watched Nick work. And didn't Didn't have anything to do with anything. Neil, I didn't even think Neil saw me. And then on a weekend shift once, Neil had to cut a spot, like one of those call-ins. He was doing a radio appearance somewhere. Mm-hmm. And they have to do the call-ins. They call the radio station and read something like, hey, it's Neil Rogers. I'm here at, Jiffy Lube, and we got prizes and this and that. And you, the board up back at the radio station, what you have to do is you record that, card it up, play it back later during the commercial breaks periodically during the appearance. And, the phone rings, and it's somebody saying, hey, Neil's going to be cutting a thing, cue a tape up. I cued the tape up. And the phone over to Neil. They said, hey, and, this is Neil, so don't fuck it up. I was like, all right. I picked up the phone and goes, hey, it's Neil, are you ready for me? And I pressed play and record, and I said, yeah, whenever you're ready. He read 2 pieces of copy. I said, that's good, we got it, thank you. And he said, thank you, and hung up the phone. And that was it. Whoa! I got through that one. Woo! I was very proud of myself. And that was it until the fourth time that Gary Bruce called me to fill in for Marvin on a particular day. And I'm making an excuse, and he says, part of your job is to be available to fill in for people when they can't come to work. If you can't be that kind of a person, then, you don't have much of a future here. And I said, all right, let me move some things around, and I'll be in there. And I shat my pants all the way in there. And I shat my pants all morning long. And I'm, walking into Neil's studio, and what can I get you? Nothing. Coffee? No. What part of nothing don't you understand? I'm like, oh, God, he's setting me up for something. I'm going to forget to do something, and then the show's going to start, and he's going to go, I got this new guy in here. He didn't do this. He didn't do that. He's setting me up. This is what he does. They told me about this. They warned me. He goes, do you know what you need to be doing in your room? I said, yeah. And he goes, well, you go do that. I'll take care of what goes on in this room. And I thought, really? That's totally a setup. Because absolutely no, even if you knew what you were doing, host types, even if you knew what you were doing, it was just always fun for them to, hey, I got a do monkey, so I'm going to tell the do monkey to go get me some water and this and that. But no, not Neil. It's like, I got it. You just go in there and do what you're supposed to be doing in that room in there. Still freaked out nervous. So freaked out I did everything wrong. Everything. I invented some new things. I got the book of producer mistakes, opened it up to chapter 1, made every mistake in the book of mistakes, and then I grabbed my pen and wrote some in the back. I made up some new ones. I said, we need an addendum.
In the note
We need an appendix. Yeah, we need to come up with volume 2, because I just added a couple more chapters of producer mistakes no one ever would have thought of. That can be in the back. You wouldn't think a producer would ever do this, but guess what? On this particular day, Jorge Rodriguez... not only did he play the cart in the wrong place, but he put it in the machine upside down while shitting his pants. Yeah. And that went on for the first 40 minutes of the show, and Neil, every time I made a mistake, Neil would make just a joke. It's like, caught it on the first bounce and made a joke over it. And then finally, after mistake number 50, he goes, do you have any idea what you're doing in there? And I leaned back in my chair, put my hands up in the air, and shook my head. No. I just went, no. No. And he laughed. He actually guffawed. He belly laughed. And he said, well, at least you're honest. You'll be fine. You're fine. Relax. And I thought, what? This is the mean man everybody's afraid of? Everybody's afraid of Neil. Everybody has conniption fits. Chuck Meyer, ladies and gentlemen.
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
Hi, Chuck.
I'm well, George. How are you?
I'm doing well. Boca Brian is here with us also.
Wonderful. Hey, Brian.
Hi, Chuck. I haven't seen you in about 300 years.
Absolutely. You're looking good, though. I checked out some of your pictures on Facebook. Your hair is white, but so is mine.
Exactly. I'm kind of like the Big Lebowski, add another 30 pounds.
Well, I don't know. You didn't look so heavy. Of course, I wasn't looking at you from the waist down. Why don't you update the audience? We've got the remnants of the Neil Rogers audience has stayed with us over here, and and you're a big name to a lot of these people. Why don't you give people an update of what you've been doing since the old IOD days?
Well, I have. It's been about 15 years since I left IOD.
Right.
And I've been in Austin, Texas, and I've been in Tucson, Arizona. And that's pretty much most of those years. And I'm in Arizona right now. Okay. Enjoying, like you are, enjoying nice winter weather. But, yeah, still plugging away in the radio biz and, been deeply concerned and saddened in the last couple of weeks. And just been going through a lot of memories and The WIOD days were like, it was like going to graduate school. You know, I had been in radio for 15 years before I went to WIOD. And when I got there, I realized I didn't know squat.
Right.
It was this wonderful place where the lunatics were running the asylum.
Yeah.
And it worked. There were a lot of terrifically talented people, but Neil was the center of our universe. He was the guy that kind of made it happen every day.
Absolutely. I didn't know anything about talk radio, and I knew I didn't know anything about talk radio, but one of the things that I thought I knew is I thought it was boring. I thought it was for old people, and that's why I didn't listen to it. And that's the first thing that I learned from working with Neil is that, no, it could be something completely different. It could be wild and crazy and fun, and he set the tone there. I always felt like, because they can't have double standards there. So if Neil's allowed to do it, everybody's got to be allowed to do it. And Neil did whatever the hell he wanted. So therefore, if you worked in those studios, if you worked behind a microphone, you were allowed to be a crazy person. And we did crazy things all the time.
Yeah, Neil set a standard. I think that for all the things that one could say regarding Neil's contribution, it was that he was very demanding in a non-demanding kind of way.
Right.
He came in every day and he'd lemonade out of lemons if he had to, and he was precise.
Right.
He was good, and it made you want to be as good as you could. You labor in radio for a long time, and yet there are very few places where you actually look forward to going into work every day, because every day was a new adventure. And it was the Neil Rogers Show that helped do it. A lot of us, I think, either made the mistake of either trying to imitate Neil, which is like you were just talking about. Imitating Neil never worked, but emulating him in the way he did his job was what would pay off for you. If you played your role and did what you needed to do to make it all work, then that paid off. And Neil he is so unique. And regardless, I continue to be hopeful and optimistic about him getting better. But we know that there's not going to be any more Neil Rogers radio shows, and without being trite or like cliched about it, there's nobody like him.
Right.
The business has become so homogenized, and it was before. It was before,
sure.
Which is what made him unique. And I think that we people in South Florida, whether we were radio people or listeners, will never fully appreciate how unique he was, because it doesn't happen in other markets.
No, it didn't. It doesn't.
It really doesn't.
I never heard of the phenomenon, and as radio people, we come down here and I realize an AM station is dominating the market, and an AM station with no promotion, I might add, is dominating the market and is right up there with the popular music stations and the elevator music station. It's really unheard of anywhere else
for years.
There are many. There have been many of these syndicated national shows that'll go unmentioned that never could hold a candle to Neil in the ratings.
Right.
That these shows would come on the air and Neil would crush them. And it was because he was local, but because he was unique.
Sure.
He wasn't doing the topic stuff. It's like when you touched on a moment ago, George. Neil did this speech a lot about how he gave up on the whole snooze thing. I can come on and do topic radio and talk about abortion and blah blah, and he just wouldn't do it. And it became much deeper and richer than that. It was just the Neil Show. It was about him, his life, and the cast of characters around him, including us and including the listeners. And it just became so much more enjoyable and entertaining because, as Neil said a gazillion times, you're not going to solve the problems of the world on a radio
show. Right. And that's not the purpose of a radio show. I thought we were tuning in to have a larf.
Yeah, he always sensed that entertainment was really the medium there, and he's so quick. Always had the one-liner. Sometimes I'd play a game where you could tell the one-liner that Neil was going to bring out of what somebody just said on the air. You said, well, he just said a word that Neil's going to play on,
right?
And it was just that's what my favorite Neil Rogers shows were, the ones that nothing really happened. It was kind of this pre-Seinfeld era where it would be just some chronic calling in that day, and Neil would turn it into a show, and then there might be 20 or 30 different calls, and he dealt with each one of them in its own way, and it was like, wow, next thing you know, 3 hours have gone by, and it was really great. There's nothing that you could necessarily put your finger on.
No, it wasn't supposed to be. It wasn't supposed to be deep. No. It was supposed to be fun. We got serious things all the time.
Absolutely. And we had our more than our share of, drama. It was a great soap opera every day at the radio station, and sometimes those subplots turned into a show, but it was just Neil taking calls or Neil pontificating that really made the show every day. And, wow, I miss it. I really do.
We all do. Well, did you stay in radio over there in Arizona?
Yeah, I've been. Now, I quit my job about a month ago.
Oh.
But I have been in radio the entire time. I went over to Austin, Texas, and loved Austin and worked there for about 8 years, and kind of got bored, and I took a job here about 6 years ago, and I started to get bored again. So about a month ago, I quit it. I'll either pop up or do something else, but I'm right now. I wouldn't call it semi-retirement, but I think I'm just going to take some time before I do something else. I can afford to do it, which is cool. And so I've just been kicking back for about a month now. And but it's been radio ever since. It's everything I've ever done. I worked in radio about 15 years before IOD, and it's been about 15 since I left IOD, which, makes me an old man, but it also makes me a guy who the IOD was like right in the middle of all of that, and it was a terrific experience. You probably, George, have gotten the question more than anybody in the world. What's Neil really like? What was it like to work with him?
Sure.
And I always, I'm sure that there are times we can always say, oh, gee, I wish I wasn't in the crosshairs that day, or well, he said something that really kind of hurt. But it was always just a radio show.
Sure.
And the other thing was, I always felt like, quite frankly, from a personal standpoint, I always knew that Neil liked me, respected my work, and if I was to become fair game for him on a given day, that was okay by me. We wore those things as badges of honor. And
no question. And just so you know, because we bust chops with the news department all the time at IOD, and Neil would and like there was a conflict for a while there. Gary wanted me to turn the pot off during the news so that Neil couldn't play drops over news stories. It really bothered Gary. He wanted the news to be very serious, and we actually agreed with that, although Neil, we didn't. This is just something that you might not know. So as much fun as we used to have with the news, with Neil playing sound effects and drops over stories that he thought were amusing or something, we went to Paxson. When we were sold to Paxson, we went over there, and I don't know if you ever heard of this character called William Robert Morton the Third. He identified himself as a real over-the-top, pukey newscaster who fancied himself a Paul Harvey. He didn't do a newscast. He did like news and comments, and the comments were attempts at humor every time. I don't know if you remember that. Right after Cox sold us, we went to Paxson. We started working in another building. They changed the news concept. Things were starting to change a lot in radio in those days. So the news came. We were like a satellite studio. The Paxson main complex is over where QAM and the Beasley compound is now. We called it the Taj Mahal of radio, that big sprawling complex down in like on Miami Gardens Drive. So this guy operated out of there, and he would do a newscast that was very shticky. And both Neil and I went apeshit over it every day on the air and off the air, and to the programmer, to the point where we actually went into the PD's office, Harry Valentine, and begged him to take this guy off the air. And our case was, people want to take, it's like, and because the defense, well, you guys do a very non-serious show, and we would say yes, but we want the news to be taken seriously. I would say part of what made WIOD so very successful is that the shows were very funny and the news was very true. And the audience could tune in and know that this was news, that this is for real, that this was serious, that we weren't jerking them around, that this wasn't shticklock, and that if they heard Neil play a drop, they knew that that was Neil playing a drop, that wasn't the news department trying to be funny. The news was good, and Sirius is right, and your name came up a lot. He said, Chuck Meyer would not have had this person under him. Chuck Meyer would not allow this clown to get on the air and do newscasts and crack jokes. You know, we had the teaser. You know, it became traditional there at IOD, and I missed that too, where you would start the newscast with a little bit of a fun or a teaser. And the audience knew that was their cue, that was the last bit of shtick that they were going to hear. The rest of the newscast was going to be a straight-up serious informational piece, and it had value as such. As a listener, I knew that, Chuck Meyer's voice, the voice I'm hearing right now, Chuck's going to give it to me straight. Chuck's telling me something that's going on. He's not a clown. The clowns are on the other 55 minutes. That's Neil. That's George. That's the comedy bits.
That was the whole role playing thing that I referenced before. Was there was a place at the top of the hour, 5 minutes, that we would do the news, and that's what made it the so-called full-service radio station.
Indeed.
That there were plenty of people who were tuning in for Neil or Rick and Sons or Hank or whatever.
Sure.
And yet, at the top of the hour, it was by habit. It was like you were going to get the news here, and then we were going to go back to the show, just like you were going to get the traffic.
Right.
And I mean, there were other needs for the listener. Right after the hurricane, Andrew, I remember the day after the hurricane, Neil came in. Broward wasn't hit that hard. Neil drove his vet into work. He comes on the air at 10 o'clock. This is just hours after the storm had passed. And Neil takes charge. And next thing you know, he's arranging for deliveries here, and he's telling people that they don't have ice there. And here's every mile that I drove in, and here's what you need to avoid. It was just like, that was a day that everything was going to be put aside.
Yeah.
And Neil knew instinctively how to handle that. And our ratings, for all the great ratings we had at WIOD.
We doubled our ratings that next month.
We doubled. It was a year before it even started to recede. And that was just because people needed the radio station for many reasons.
They needed an interactive radio station with a real news department. WINS was the all-news station, mostly canned crap. They had maybe a reporter or two. Yeah. We had a news staff with reporters and news vehicles. We were the interactive news station. People were calling up on the air with gouging reports. Hey, this person's gouging over here. Or here's where you can get your water. Here's where you can get your Visqueen. Hey, there's a power line down over there. It was the nexus of all activity the day after and for a following month. We filled the conference room with volunteers, people's spouses and family members, so that we could get information into and out of. It was a place where you could call for answers, or if you had answers to questions, people running up and down the hall with little notes. This just in, handing it to whoever was on the air. People sleeping. We were sleeping at the radio station, taking shifts, tagging off. Groceries piled up in corners because people, we weren't going to go. We were just going to go microwave a can of something. And Neil was all a part of that. He knew when to be serious and when to be funny. If he was funny 90% of the time. If he was being serious, there was a good reason for it. Can't explain that to people anymore. Can't explain the importance of having a radio station like that in this town, which is why we did our little online thing over here. We're doing what IOD used to be. There isn't a station like that in this town. I don't know if it exists over there where you are now. We don't have a local station here.
No, I know what you mean. Everything is now just play these 262 records over and over again, and or run Sean Hannity.
The talk is all canned, and it's either sports talk or right-wing politics, and it's usually it comes from somewhere else. It's piped in from somewhere else.
Yep.
That's what we have.
And that's what it's begun. That's what it's become, and that's why Neil was so different. And the other thing that was really admirable about him over the years was, I'm sure, that he had more than enough offers to syndicate. And I think that there were probably many pluses that could have gone with that, but I think he always knew that he was so unique to that market and that it would so dilute what he was trying to do every day that he just remained true to the market. And we won't see that again anywhere. And I just keep hearing his voice. You know what I mean?
Right.
Well, he did praise you that one time you filled in for him after the adult bookstore thing back in '91. And
that's a very good point. That's one of my memories, because about 10 minutes before airtime, it was like, Neil was arrested over in Miami Beach last night. We need you to come in and do the show. And I'm thinking, well, what are we going to do? And we had gotten a fax from someone, which was the police report.
Right.
And we just did a couple of hours of like, here's what's going on, and here's why Neil's not on, and people were just outraged at the whole arrest and the whole. This was post Pee Wee Herman. It was just like Pee Wee Redux. And then later in the show, Neil, had gotten himself out of jail and gotten himself home, was going to get some rest, and called in and talked for about 10 minutes. Said that the world is well. I'll be in tomorrow morning. And I remember the next day he began a show, thanking me for doing a professional job and a good job in handling the way it went. And I'll tell you what, all these years later, I remember that. And I remember little things like when the Clarence Thomas hearings were going on. I put together a newscast one morning, and we used to, for your listeners, George, the news people used to carry our little carts, our little actualities into you, we would come in and pick up the commercials, and I stopped in to give you your commercials back after doing the Clarence Thomas hearings, and Neil got on the intercom and said that was a great newscast. And it was like, he doesn't say that often to people.
He never felt like he had to, because if he didn't like it, you'd know it. You understand that? Neil complimented by elimination. If he wasn't bitching about you, you're probably doing a good job.
I went to the track with Neil once, had some private moments with him. The thing that people have to realize about Neil is that he was never the guy who had to have a lampshade on his head when he was among people. He is a very quiet, unassuming, private person who is just an average guy. When the microphone comes on, he's a pit bull and he's unique. But off the air, he's a guy, and it was always neat to know that there was no evidence of a crazy man when you were at the track or talking baseball or just talking about something other than that. He's a wonderful man, and it was a great place to work, a great cast of characters, but Neil was clearly the center of it, and for good reason. He demanded certain standards. And yet he came in every day. Neil almost never missed a show that I could recall.
This is true.
He came in and did his work. And when we talk about the news, let's talk about a real small little thing. But at 59 minutes and 50 seconds past the hour, he stopped. The ID played, the news came on.
He spoiled me for everybody else. I had to take everybody else by the hand and had to do arm signals, flap my arms like I'm landing an airplane every single hour, every single time, like they learned nothing. Never had to do that with Neil. Then or years later, almost never had to gesture anything to him. He hit his posts, I hit mine, bing, bang, back and forth, just like that.
It was the consummate radio professional, and you're right, you didn't see that from everybody, and to this day, now it's a mess. He had an internal clock, and he was looking at the clock, and he knew exactly what was going to be said right up to the last second.
Didn't have to play that cheater music, that filler music at the end, like a lot of people wanted that ramp, so they can just stop talking whenever.
That's exactly right. You never had to worry about him filling in the hour.
He hit every cue. It was tight.
And I realize that we've been talking, and I probably haven't referenced a whole lot of specific shows, and that's because I think everybody deserved to have their favorites of Neil.
Sure.
Somebody played the bridge tender audio for me the other day, and I remember being there and hearing that when it happened, and not realizing only starting to sense, but not completely realizing this was going to become a classic.
Oh, it was just another phone call. It was just another funny call. They came in every day.
And it started off with the guy going, I'm on. And then Neil's going, oh, Jesus. And, he said, this one's going to last 30 seconds. But the guy was just a classic. And, navigable waters. And Neil just swatted that one like a fly. It was, and there were just so many of them. Wow.
Sure.
It was a great radio station. It really was.
It really was. I use it. I was just describing it to someone. I use it as a template for what we're doing over here. You know what I remember?
Hey, getting stoned in South Florida.
It sounds better when I have it on a good pod over there. But we talk about packrats. Let me try it again.
Hey, getting stoned in South Florida.
There you go. That's you, Chuck Meyer. We save all those things.
That was me.
That was one of your teasers.
I heard a clip the other day of Neil. It was about something else, but he was mentioning the Weekend magazine, and I keep forgetting that for like 5 years I worked Saturdays.
That's right.
And then would do a show, but it was always a lot of fun. I think Neil liked that show, and always caught a break there because it was a lot more. It was a lot different. It was an interview show, and it was a little feature-ish and all that sort of thing. But had good times doing that too.
Have you stayed in touch with anybody from the old IOD?
I am in touch with. I was in touch with Rick Riley just recently.
Okay.
I'd love to reach Suds, and I know you just had Suds on the other day.
I see Suds like every other week. He's a regular guest over here on the show. I would absolutely love to put you in touch with him. I'm trying to find Gary Bruce. I was wondering if you had contact.
I found Gary on Facebook.
Okay, I guess I can probably find him there too.
Go to my Facebook, and Gary's a friend, and I put quotes around it.
All right, get Gary
been in touch. I haven't been in touch with Gary for a long time. Gary probably have a million Neil stories, to say the least. Not the least of which of one of their many blow-ups. I always remember that when Gary went over to Neil's house once and knocked on the door and apologized to them because of some flare-up that they had. And I always thought, I got to say this, and I think the rule at WIOD was never say anything good about Boy Gary. But one of the things that it always said something to me about Gary, it was a remarkable gesture, was that he actually went to Neil's house and knocked on his door one afternoon and wanted to just apologize and hash out something that, of course, had become one of the many tempests on the air.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, that takes balls.
I went through a lot, ups and downs with Gary Bruce. We were on an up when he was fired, which was sad because I worked for a long time on that relationship because Neil put one in a position where you could either be loyal to Neil or to management because he was in conflict with management all the time. I was always loyal to Neil because I agreed with him. I agreed with his point. It wasn't because I was more afraid with him. I mean, never mind if he hated me, I would have to find another show. But Gary could fire me, like from the station. So I really wanted to be on the side of management, but I had to agree with Neil because he was right. And so it caused conflicts, but so I worked for a long time to mend that relationship with Gary and to convince Gary that I was a team player, that really what I wanted was what he wanted was good ratings, and just when everything was looking really good between me and Gary, that's when they fired him. But I'd love to get Gary on the air. I just friended him, as a matter of fact. I found him just like you said.
Gary Bruce, tied to the track in front of a freight train.
Right on. Gary, I think that as far as Neil's career goes, I probably have the most stories because I spent the longest time with him. But I think, Gary's going to be up there. Gary's going to be a big contender when it comes to Neil stories because they were at odds a lot. And but Gary was a good program director.
He was. He really had a great sense of programming, and I think that he delighted in some of the craziness at the station because he knew that it was stuff that wasn't happening. It's one of the small modicums of credit I will give to management at IOD was that you might say they took a chance on Neil, but at the same time, we thrived having Neil at a time when other radio stations wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole.
Sure.
And to that sense, I think we all realized that, there was something special going on. There will be all kinds of rough bumps. But we had the guy that nobody else had.
Right.
And I think by sticking with that, they deserve a modicum of credit.
Gary, I have a lot of good things to say about Gary, and I think when we come back from another long, bunch of clips, then I'll start saying that because it's actually, it's part of the how I got to be Neil's producer. It's Gary's fault in the first place, and then all of the conflicts. And I was talking earlier about the food, the big issue with the food, and Gary's memo about the food. A lot of what people came to know, like the Neil Rogers Show that a lot of people know, the Neil Rogers Show from the past 20 years, really kind of started there at IOD, and the format and the way that he would do the show really kind of started there. He did other things, he did the interview shows before, he did the Morning Zoo thing, but the format that he adopted when he went to IOD was the format that he had, all the way through to the end, with basically clashing with management and reading their memos, especially the memos that they didn't want anybody to read, all the inside stuff. And but Gary did a lot of things. I'm gonna, we're so late for breaking time, but I'm gonna tell some Gary Bruce stories when we get back. And I got a lot of good things to say about Gary because he cared about the program. He cared about the way that the radio station sounded on the air, and he cared about talent. He wanted to have good quality talent on there, and he looked for it and he nurtured it when he found it. So it'll be good to talk to Gary. Thanks for the hookup there.
Very good, George.
Right.
Well, it was an honor to be asked to join you today. I'm sure I'll stay in touch. And
check us out, Chuck. I think you'll like what we're doing over here. It's SoFloRadio.com. All the shows are archived all the way to the beginning. Listen back to this one so you can hear how good you sound. You probably don't have any idea. And check us out. Spread the word. All those things.
I will, and as a matter of fact, I did one day last week, and I think I screwed up my computer. I may have been trying to go to the stream or a podcast and went to the wrong one.
Okay.
But I will be catching up on my listening. I'm so glad to hear that you're doing this several times a week, and I look forward to listening to as many as I can.
Beautiful, Chuck. The honor is ours. It's a great hearing from you. Don't be a stranger. If you ever come to town, drop me a note and we'll go score some free food somewhere for old time's sake.
That is a promise. Thank you very much, guys.
All right. Thank you very much,
Chuck.
Chuck Meyer, ladies and gentlemen, blast from the past. We're going to be getting on as many as we can until whenever. Until we're good and goddamn tired. 126 on All Nostalgia Radio, SoFloRadio.com.
Clarence Thomas is a douchebag. Oh!
Hey, there we go. Hey, y'all, my name is Clarence Eugene Thomas, President Bush's nominee for the Supreme Court. And there's lots of people out there that think just cause I smoked a little marijuana when I was in college, it wasn't nothing but a pen joint, maybe a cigar-side joint, I don't remember, y'all, that they don't think I'm fit to be on the Supreme Court. Hey, I got the munchies. Let's do this quick and get out of here. I want to set y'all straight. When I start reviewing the law, I don't just review the law. Hell, y'all, I'll be toking. And I toke it to the east, and I toke it to the west, and I toke it while I look up Sandra Day O'Connor's breast. I'll be toking. Let's go burn one, y'all.
Do you know who we are? SoFloRadio.com.
It's the 1 to 2 hour.
Hello.
Yeah, hi, how you doing?
I'm doing okay.
Well, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about this fraternity business that you mentioned, and I just wanted to ask you, do you have any best friends, and how long have you had those best friends for?
Well, what does that mean?
Well, it means...
What does that have to do with this?
It has to do with...
Everybody's got best friends. I mean, if they have any friends at all, sure.
It has to do with a fraternity, and not necessarily taking showers or all the other hazing and whatnot that goes on, but it has to do with hanging out with a bunch of guys.
I have two best friends. One is straight, one is gay. I've never had sex with either one of them. I've never seen either one of them naked, nor have any desire to do either one of the above.
Okay, in a fraternity...
Don't take showers with them. Don't stack towels at them.
All right, in a fraternity house, we don't socialize by taking showers together. If a guy takes a shower and the other guy's got to go to class, he goes in the shower as well. It's not a question of socializing in the shower.
No, I'm not talking about socializing in the shower fraternities. We're talking about hazing and initiations in fraternities and group sex.
I'll tell you about hazing and initiation. When you're in the age of adolescence, 18, 19, and you're trying to find yourself in college, whatever college may be, fraternities lend itself to putting a bunch of guys that are like you. When I say like you, I mean they like the same interests, they play the same sports. They're a group of guys together that automatically, for some reason, I can't explain why, become your good friends for life. Now, when you have a good friend, and like I mentioned to you, when you have a best friend or someone who's a good friend of yours, you share experiences with them, and part of becoming
You mean sexual experiences?
No, well, it could be two guys on a girl. It could be two girls on two guys. It could be in the bathroom, 4 guys taking showers with 4 girls. The experience, sexual or not sexual, is irrelevant.
No, it is not. It's not irrelevant at all.
Of course it is.
No, it is not.
When you're in a fraternity, your goals are to make friends.
Because you have friends, sir. Because you have a best friend or a bunch of good friends doesn't mean A, that you take showers with them because you're going to be friends for a long time, and B, certainly doesn't mean that you share sexual experiences with them or that you have group sex with them.
I belong to a health club, and in the health club that I belong to, it's a completely heterosexual health club.
Yeah.
But the shower is a shower with 6 stalls on it. Now, do you think that I become part of that health club so that I can work out with guys and then go take showers with them?
I have no idea. Only you can answer that question.
Okay.
But that has nothing to do. I will tell you this: there are plenty of guys who do, but that's beside the point.
That's beside the point. Me personally, I do not.
That's a bastion of homosexual activity in health clubs.
I do not go and join a fraternity.
No, we believe you. Don't sound defensive. We believe you, yeah.
The point of a fraternity and communal showers and group sex and whatnot is not a question.
What is the point of group sex?
The point of a fraternity and hazing, and the point of becoming
what is
close
the point
to one
of
another.
hazing? What is the point of making What is the point of making the young kids get naked? What is the point of that?
I'll tell you exactly what it is. I'll tell you. I'll give you a straightforward answer.
Please, a straight answer.
When you belong to a fraternity, and I'll say it again, you belong to a bunch of guys that are going to be your friends for life. And part of
so why does that require them getting naked for you?
Let me finish. Part of the experience of having a best friend, whether it may be a best friend that you play soccer with, or whether it may be a best friend that you go out drinking with, if you share intimate moments. Now, not sexual.
Intimate moments?
Not sexual. When I say intimate, I don't mean sexual. I mean intimate in the sense that you will not share that kind of experience with anybody else who's not your friend. For example...
Sir, you know something? This sounds so faggy to me that even I'm embarrassed for you, sir.
You want to know...
Sounds very faggy to me.
Running through the beach naked with a bunch of guys, you're never going to share this experience with anybody else, not even your wife or your kids or any other friends that you make in your entire life.
Why would you want to run through the beach naked with a bunch of guys? Why do you want to do that?
Hold on. Hazing is not a question of you want to. You don't have a choice.
Right.
Because
and why do you want to force these kids to be naked? Why do they always have to take their clothes off, my closet friend?
On an everyday
that hangs out at the showers at the gym. Why don't you tell me the real story here, pal?
On an everyday experience, people do not in a fraternity walk around naked, nor do they naked experiences.
No, stop obfuscating. Stop with the smoke screen. Stop with the steam and the steam bath, okay? Let's get back to the meat of the matter. Tell me why you want to make these guys get naked. What is that all about?
It's a matter of respect. It's a matter
respect for what? No, it's a matter of lack of respect for them by you.
No,
it's a matter of lack of respect. If I respect somebody, I'm not going to force them to degrade themselves and embarrass and humiliate themselves in order to be part of my club.
If you're going to be part of a particular group of friends and guys, who says that?
Sir, I want to tell you. I want to tell you this. I want to tell you this, okay? Without any more discussion, it's very simple. A child could tell you. If somebody demands that I get naked in order to be their friend, I'll pass, okay? There's a good message for all you kids out there. If any other male, your age, older, whatever age, if they demand that you take your clothes off and engage in some kind of naked hanky-panky in order to be a part of their club, in order to be your buddy, in order to be their pal, run like a bandit, run like a son of a bitch. That's the best call I've ever had in my life.
That's a gay club, you moron.
Looking through the bars at the county jail, O.J. was there and he began to wail. Stoyanovich was there because he drank too much, and Tyson was looking for something to touch of those jocks. Look at all the jailhouse jocks. Everybody was grabbing their socks, getting ready for the jailhouse jocks. Mr. Fitzpatrick wasn't looking so well, saying that his marriage was a living hell. Costa in the corner with his burrito, he said that Taco Bell is the way to go with those jocks. Look at all the jailhouse jocks. Everybody was grabbing their socks, smiling at the jailhouse jocks, hanging with the jailhouse jocks, watching them bust up rocks. Look at them stiffing their chops.
I'm any better than Neil Rogers or any fatter than Hank Goldberg. Oh!
Sitting at home watching the WWF. I got hair on my back and Coors on my breath. I got remote control. I got my Nintendo joystick. I'm so damn lazy. I married a pregnant chick.
Well, it's true I drive a Beamer and I play lots of golf. I wear polyester pants that I never take off. I go out to the bars and I try to be funky, but I don't fool anyone, cause me a honky.
Me a honky. Oh, me a honky. Oh, me a honky. Just a little too white. Oh, me a honky. Oh, me a honky. Oh, me a honky.
I listen to Madonna and I think she's really hip, and that Julio Iglesias fella just makes me flip. I don't like Two Live Crew. They're just so darn dirty. My kids aren't allowed to listen until they turn 30.
My dad is my uncle, and my sister's my aunt. I'm enrolled in school just to get me a grant. I tell a lot of ethnic jokes. I think that they're funny. I got a bad sense of humor, cause me a honky.
Oh, me a honky. Oh, me a honky. Oh, me a honky. Just a little too white. Oh, me a honky. Oh, me a honky. Oh, me a honky. Just a little too white.
Look at me do the box step, Lovey. Look at this.
Hey, Ma, why don't you come over here and pull my finger?
24 till 2, SoFloRadio.com, Jorge Rodriguez, Boca, Brian, Monica, everybody over here.
Woo,
Chuck Meyer, we just got Chuck Meyer on the phone, and friend Gary Bruce, kept Gary in here. I keep doing things out of order. I should probably try not to.
What special stories you shared?
Oh yeah, well they're all special and they're not made up. And I always keep telling people nothing. Well, and that's a thing. I didn't make up that story. Truth is stranger than fiction. That's old. That goes all the way back to caveman paintings, I think, when people started making up caveman stories. Some of us have had the kind of life that you certainly don't have to exaggerate or embellish. Sometimes we'll change some names to protect the innocent and the guilty, but otherwise we don't have to make shit up. And it's kooky. Who could have made up the kind of things that happened? So Gary Bruce, we left the story from the beginning. Gary Bruce threatened me with my job if I didn't go in and fill in for Neil. I was scared shitless. I made every mistake in the book. Neil was cool in spite of that. And once, I would say it was about like 10:50, like 50 minutes into the show, when I realized that he wasn't the bastard that everyone said he is. I was able to calm down and do the kind of regular, professional, slick kind of job that I always have done, whenever. And then that was that. And I was asked to come back the next day, which surprised the hell out of me. And the next day, and at the end of the week, Gary said, how would you like to try it out for a month? I thought, really? Because Chuck was just mentioning, Neil wasn't the kind of guy that just threw compliments around. And I said, really? Because I wasn't getting anything. I mean, he was being nice and professional and everything like that, but I didn't know how the show went other times. I knew how it sounded on the air, but you know from experience in this business that what you hear on the air is not necessarily what is going on in the studio. People have the ability to be professional in spite of the fact that they might not like each other very much, or they got other issues or other things on their mind. You just don't really know what's going on there. You're doing a job, and when you've done it for a long time, you can do the job in spite of other things like feelings and emotions and all of that. But Gary Bruce said, oh no, Neil likes you. Neil thinks you're very good. And after a month, I was asked to be, Gary offered me the job permanently. And I was delighted. I thought, are you kidding me? Because I learned a couple of things from doing Neil's show. One of them, talk shows can be fun. Not just fun to listen to, not just like having a good time. And in the beginning, I didn't get the show at all. Trust me, I did not get the humor. I did not get it. I listened to it briefly when I was a repo man. I listened to it in the car with Charlie the agent, the guy that trained me to be a repo guy, right-wing Christian redneck. And he put Neil on every day so that he could yell at the radio. It was one of the first things that I discovered about the Neil Rogers Show. A lot of people that hate Neil listen to the radio, which sounded very weird to me. It's still very weird to me. I still don't understand that. Neil talked about it on the air all the time. You can't turn it off, he would say. You can't turn it off. Oh, you hate me, you're calling up, you're yelling at me on the phone, but you can't turn it off. You're listening right now. People would call up and yell at him on the phone, and then they would call back the next day. I hate your show sucks, you're so stupid, everything you say is wrong. And then the next day they would call up and quote something else that he said. Why are you still listening, sir? You called with a fresh batch of things that I'm wrong about. How is it that you're still listening? I just want to see how wrong you're going to be today. And Charlie was the same way. He would yell at the radio. I don't know, like the radio has ears. As if. And I'm standing right there and I'm thinking, this is... I don't know who this is more torture for, you or me watching it, listening to it. Let's change the station, Charlie. Let's put it on some Christian music. I know all the words. We can sing along together. It'll be way more fun than listening to you screech at this guy. I was barely able to, I couldn't even, I wasn't like listening. Charlie had Neil on, but I wasn't a talk show listener, so I was listening to Led Zeppelin tunes in my head. I was listening to Dark Side of the Moon for the 5,000th time in my head, trying to tune the conversation out. Both whatever Neil was saying and whatever Charlie was screeching about. Had no interest in it. But my impression was, here's a cranky old fart who bitches about everything. People call and kiss his ass. He insults them, hangs up on them, and then they call back.
Yeah.
That was my surface impression of the Neil Rogers Show. I thought, that's not entertainment, that's madness. This is a madhouse that I moved down here in South Florida. That's madness. I said, people listen to this. This is a successful show. People say, oh, this is the number one show. I said, based on what? I don't get it. And certainly for the first couple of weeks there, I wasn't getting it. Little by little, I got it. First of all, the people that he is insulting on the phone, they had deserved it. They deserve it. They have it coming. They're asking for it. They're begging for it, first of all. Second of all, then I started to get that this is the shtick of the show. This is what Neil does. It's vaudeville. It's pie in the face. It's seltzer water. It's people slipping on a banana peel. Okay, all right. And he does a really good job of it. It's a pit bull ripping things up. It's putting something in a blender to see what kind of a pattern it makes. Throwing things off of a tall tower to see what kind of a splatter it makes. This is that, and it's really good. It's a really good example of that. How's Neil going to shred this guy next? Can't wait. Let's throw something into the pit with the pit bull and see what happens. Mm-hmm. And it was fun, and nobody did it better. Chuck called him a pit bull. That analogy has been made several times. I'm just going to stick with it and run with it. So Gary, it's okay.
No, he's the American tourist or gorilla.
Right. You put a suitcase or a small child in the cage with the gorilla and watch the fun. Oh my God! Look at the gorilla did that thing now. So Gary offered me the job, and almost immediately, and I don't remember how soon it was, but it was really soon. I went from Gary Bruce patting me on the head and thanking me. Oh, I'm really glad that Neil liked you, because if he didn't, we would have had to start looking for other producers elsewhere. I would have had to start taking applications and hiring some other people to be the producer, because he wasn't happy with anyone yet, and I was the last one on the list. I was the most recent hire at the time. The most recent hire that was still there. Apparently other producers had floated in and floated out. Other board ops had floated in and floated out. I was still the lowest guy. Of the producers of the board ops that were there, they were, I was the freshest of them all, the last one on the list. And so Gary was thanking me and giving me compliments, and you did a really good job, George. Way to go. Not everybody, obviously, can please this man, and you're doing it. Way to go. Good job. Wow, I'm feeling good. I don't know how long that feeling lasted. Not a month.
That long.
No.
It wasn't long before we started laughing about it.
Right. And here I am, by the way, just to set the stage, a country bumpkin. Doe-eyed, turnip-smelling, because I just fell off the turnip truck. So even when I lived in Florida, I lived in the Redlands, Leisure City, that area. I lived in the boondocks. I lived in farm country. I lived in Homestead. And let me clarify. I had a Homestead address. I lived surrounded by avocado groves and malanga fields, where the stop signs were 5 miles apart. So I didn't know from life in the city. And certainly
no!
Yeah. That's me. capital Who is me. And working at a little radio station, the only radio station in town that was run by a husband and wife. Quite literally, mom and pop. That's not a figure of speech. A husband and wife ran the entire radio station, and the only employees were 4 DJs and 1 salesperson. And that was it. That was the staff. 7 people there. And a full-service radio station. One of the first things that I noticed when I went to work at the Cox Radio building, these people. Wow, there are a lot of people. How many hours of programming are we talking about over here? Well, no additional hours of programming when you consider the fact that they ran Larry King a network show overnight. Because even though KLCB was off the air from 10:30 at night, KLCB, the radio station in Montana where I worked at, disclaimer, KLCB was off the air from 10-something until 6 in the morning, but then WIOD ran canned things from 10-something till 6 in the morning. Why there were all those people was beyond me. What's this guy's job? Well, that's the promotions director. The what? The who's a what now? The what? Oh, the program director, come to find out, is the promotions director in the big corporate city is the program director's friend, and so he gets to have an office and a desk and a job, and he gets the keys to the prize closet, and that's all he does is he doles out prizes. Came to understand just how much fat there is inside a radio station. So back to the Gary Bruce thing. So Gary, and it must have been like the first month, the food thing, the food situation that existed before I got the job. Gary, that was his big thing, is getting Neil to stop eating on the air. All the food in there. Don't ask me why. Because for the most part, Gary allowed a lot of craziness to go on and opposed the people that tried to put a stop to it. And we did a lot of craziness in that radio station. When Suds comes back here, maybe we can jog each other's memory about the kind of craziness that we would do. One time we got a sponsor. It was like, I don't know, maybe Waterbed City or someplace, a furniture store. They were having a sale or a run. They wanted to move all these beanbag chairs. Remember beanbag chairs, Monica?
Yes, I do.
Big, giant bags full of, what was that, styrofoam little beads? They weren't beans.
Something.
They weren't beans.
They weren't beans.
And then they would break and get all over the place.
Well, in the big city, clients bring stuff in and give it to the people on the air so that they can talk about it. That was one of the things I learned. That was new and exciting and cool. Not just the food that was in there all the time. But we had a beanbag sponsor one day. So he brings in all these beanbags for everybody who's on the air, all the air staff, including me. I get my own beanbag. But because he brings them in the morning and they're going to be there all day long until everybody gets the chance to pick them up, for a while there we had a whole mess of beanbags, like 10 of them. They're piled up in the hallway. So what did we do? We took them and we moved them all to the end of the hallway where the hallway ends. It's a long, skinny building for you people that don't know. Down there in the Channel 7 compound, long, skinny building. And with a long hallway, doors on each side of it. The hallway had a lot to do with a lot of things that happened in that town. So we piled all the beanbags up in a big pile at the end of the hallway, and then we would take turns running full tilt as fast as we could, flying through the air. The contest was who can leap the furthest into the beanbag. So we had a spotter standing by the copy machine, and like the grid pattern on the floor, the tile pattern on the floor. We had a spotter spot where each person took off from to see if they could leap far enough and still hit the beanbag chair. And of course, if you leapt too soon, you were going to hit the floor before the beanbag chair, and if you leapt too late, you were going to clear over the top of the beanbag chair and hit the carpeted area.
Only the creative things we come up with at work.
This is what the air staff would do, and we would run out there during commercial breaks. It's like, I'm going to go do a run. And we would run down the hall, like when one person's, as you're running down the hall to where the starting point is, you're running down the hall going, stay out of the wall, stay out of the hall, because doors would open right in your face. Ding! Do you have the frying pan hitting you sound, Boca Brian?
Yeah.
Because I need that. Because that would happen all the time. Eventually, they painted yellow lines on the floor where all the doors open. Because people would open doorways into people's faces all the time. Because the doors opened out into the hallway. So people would just be striding down the hallway, and somebody would open a door in your face. Kapank! There you would go. And we didn't want that happening during our... Because, seriously, we were really...
Oops.
This is 20-something-year-old George. I had some spring in my step in those days.
No,
you were spry.
Yes. Boingy, boingy.
You ever notice that about old people?
But they're not spry?
The old men, I don't know if they do it anymore, but when I was a kid growing up, every old man would always tell a story about when they were a prize fighter.
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever encounter that?
Well, my stepfather was everything.
But there were always prize fighters. There must have been one hell of a lot of prize fighters back then.
And a lot of prizes. They all won one prize each.
I was a boxer.
Yeah. Well, I was a Labrador, so...
I don't know what that means.
I guess it was, in those days, white guys could be boxers, so it was just a completely different scene. In
I see. Maybe that gave them carte blanche.
Here we are doing that. We would leap into the bag of beanbag chairs. The bag of chairs, when you would hit them, they would slide across the length of hall until the hall ended right there in front of the sales office where the copy machine was. That was a carpeted area. As soon as these stack of bags that you're carrying are with you, like you're on a linoleum floor. So the whole mass of bags, you're kind of carrying them with you, sliding across the floor. And as soon as the bag mountain with you on top of it hit the carpeted area, it would disintegrate. All the bags would, at that point, start just going all over the place, and you would tumble and wind up right at the doorway of the sales office there. Not really bothering anyone, but somebody said something to Gary Bruce. You see what these guys are, these kids? You see what these grown men are doing out there in the hallway? What is this, a place of business or a play area? And Gary Bruce's line, and he probably doesn't even remember it, because the book had just come out. And Gary's line to whatever butt plug was bitching at him was, "We're number one. Leave them alone."
Damn it.
Good line.
Yeah. We're number one. Leave them alone. One time, another Gary, speaking of Gary Bruce stories, another Gary, the Gary from accounting, went into the studio where nobody's supposed to be except authorized personnel. The comptroller thinks that he's authorized personnel. He goes into the studio to bust, not my chops, but Alex Rodriguez's chops, a different, like a board op who was there. Busted his chops. Neil saw it, goes on the air, rips Gary, what was his last name? Mills or something? General Mills?
Yeah. Gary Mills.
Rips him an ass. What is Gary Mills doing in this studio? Blah, 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 blah. And then just starts saying a bunch of gratuitous crap about Gary Mills. You know, he's got a small penis, or who knows. Neil starts to make shit up and throw things on it. Blah, 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 blah. Gary Mills goes to complain to Gary Bruce. Do you hear what he's doing? What do you think I should do about this? And Gary's response is, "You can take it like a man." That was Gary's response. And, oh, by the way, stay out of my studios.
Good answer.
Yeah. Stay out of my studios. You have your offices that you're the department head of. You go and maraud the people in your office and leave my people alone. That's my business. That's my problem. Somebody in one of my studios is doing something that they shouldn't be doing. That's my business. I think Gary Mills is actually giving Alex Rodriguez a hard time for having food in the studio. That's the irony of the whole thing. The Gary Mills thought that he would find an ally in Gary Mills, but Gary, I was trying to stop this kid from eating in the studio, and you want people to stop eating in the studio is just exercising your will. So, that's not for you to do. Stay out of my studios.
There was one time on Zeta 4, I wish I had the tape of this. I was in the car when I heard it, and so there wasn't much I could do. But somebody sent Neil Griveness.
Yes.
You heard that? Oh.
No, but I just...
because you remember the Phil show when he did the burning dog?
Yeah, well, that was with my bag of chips, by the way.
Oh, that's right. So he was kind of quiet. Every now and then he'd hear like, oh, you know.
Right.
Well, it was the same thing when Neil was eating the Griveness. He spent about 10 minutes eating this Griveness. And that's what it sounded like. There was no dialogue at all. It was just every now and then, after he'd take a bite.
Does that sound like fire?
Yeah, it's actually saran wrap with twigs, I've been told.
We didn't have that. Phil Hendry came into the studio one day and was like, "I need a sound effect for fire. George, you got all these sound effects in there. Where's the sound effect for fire?" And I said, "We don't have a sound effect for fire. Here, use this." And I handed him a bag of, I think it was actually Cheetos, that I hadn't opened yet, that I got out of the vending machine. The fried kind, the puffy kind suck. And he goes, "What?" And I go, hold it up to your ear. You crinkle it really slowly. That's fire. It's an old radio trick. And he's like, "What?" And he grabbed the bag and he go, "Oh, yeah, I guess that is that works." So it was in my baggage. I never got it back, by the way.
The funniest part about that bit was when they came back after the break, he just kept doing that.
Oh, very good. So, Gary, and this was the first month. Neil's got some food in. Neil gets some food in. And without warning, because Gary never told me that it was my job to keep food out of there. If he had told me that was my job, I would have said, "What? Really?" The food doesn't come through the control room. The control room has a door. The talk studio has a door. You don't get to the talk studio by going into the control room. Therefore, I really do not, like, how am I supposed to physically stop the food? Now, the front door where the receptionist is is locked unless the receptionist presses the buzzer, so no one can walk past the receptionist unless the receptionist deems. That seems like, and I came to understand that that's where people, unwelcome people, are turned away, is at the front desk. I'm here with a headset, telephone answering headset with all kinds of controls and supposed to be paying attention to the show. But this discussion never happened. Okay? I wasn't told. Up until this point, I was supposed to know. I was supposed to know about the memo and everything. So Neil had food in a lot. On this particular day, he had a lot of food in. Gary Bruce comes into the studio. What's with all this food here? Neil asked for food on the air, and Pizza Loft and Villa Deli and Wayne Arnold, they all brought food in because Neil said he wanted some food in here, and he would say it like that. Let's get some food in here.
George, why don't you say that?
Hey, let's get some food in here. Because we're in a secret location. Although it can be arranged. We could just
do on occasion, though.
Yeah. Well, back on regular radio, yeah, we could. A lot of people fall all over themselves to bring food in to you. And so, Gary Bruce walks in, and this is while Neil's talking. It's in the middle of a segment. I don't want to see any food in here. I wrote a memo. And he just starts yelling. I thought I told you, and I'm like, no. Neil's had food in, always had food in. There isn't supposed to be any food in here. And I'm like, okay, Gary. And I'm a pussy, by the way. I don't know how to argue with bosses. That was Neil's job. It wasn't even a month. I don't remember when it was. Could have been the first week since I was officially made full-time producer. You know what my starting pay was, Boca Brian? $11,000 a year.
It's nice, huh?
Yeah. Ain't that something?
I'd like to have that now.
Me too. By the way, we're not unemployed. We're semi-retired, like Chuck Meyer. Didn't you learn something from that phone call there?
Oh, that's right.
So anyway,
he's in Arizona, a retirement place, and so are we.
Sure. So, Neil, this is happening in front of Neil's face. And so Neil goes to a commercial break, and I'm sitting there sweating out of my palms, sweating off my back, dry mouth. Come on in. You Chamba? Gamba. Oh, that's better. That's different. That's totally different.
Not my typo, Oski. Hi.
Hey, how's it going? Come on in, grab chairs. We're gonna I'm gonna finish a story. We're gonna take a break, come back, and start talking about you guys. But we need closure on this story I'm telling over here. Just bear with me a little bit. So Neil goes to a commercial break, and he hits the talk back, and he says, "What was that all about?" And I said, "Nothing." And it's just like, I'm sitting straight up like there's a board strapped to my back. Actually, like there's a board up my ass coming out the top of my head. I'm sitting there, so just rigid, panicking, freaking out. I just got a full-time job. This is way better than I thought I was going to, further than I ever thought I would get in talk radio. So I'm like, I don't want to breathe. I was probably turning purple. My lips were probably turning purple from not breathing. I was so freaked out. Now what do? I've never been in a situation like this before in my life. So I say nothing, and Neil's like, and he'd never been serious with me before this particular occasion. This is the first time that Neil got, like, serious. George, what the hell just happened in there? Nothing? I say it again. Nothing? He hits the talk back one more time, and he goes, tell me what the fuck that was all about. What did he say to you? I'm supposed to keep the food out of here. And he laughs. We come back from the break. He goes off on Gary.
Oh.
You asshole. You asshole, Gary. Just asshole. We could say asshole in those days. You asshole. And Gary was, you asshole. Stay out of the studios during my show, Gary. You asshole. Yeah, while eating, probably had a drumstick in one hand and a Neely burger in the other hand while he's saying all this, and grease dripping off of his elbows. So, Gary Bruce opens the door again after the next segment, and he says, if you don't take control of this show, I'll find somebody who can. See me after the show. And so Neil sees the door open, and he's like, what now? And he said, if I don't take control of the show, he's going to find somebody who can, and I'm going to see him after the show. And Neil says, he's going to see me after the show.
Yay, good answer.
Oh. I'm like... I'm not just shitting, but I'm sitting on top of a mountain of shit that just came from me, man. I'm just sitting on top of shit mountain. How did that much shit get inside that little guy? I don't know, but look at that guy. He looks like he's sitting on the Matterhorn, and it's made of shit. So here I am sitting at the end of the show. Here I am sitting outside Gary Bruce's office like the principal thing. Neil goes like pushing past, going in there, and I just hear yelling, both of them yelling, fuck. Somehow I found some more shit to shit. Somehow. I don't know where it was hiding. Maybe up inside my head. Maybe under my arms there was some spare shit in there, because I found a whole lot more leaving that chair. Yeah. I sweat so much I needed a change of clothes. I left a wet spot on that chair. Neil goes, the door opens, Neil goes walking out and just goes, your turn, and jerks his thumb towards the door, and then he leaves. So I really, really slowly, sheepishly, I'm shaking. I walk into Gary's office and he goes, close the door. I'm shaking. I sit down. I'm shaking. I'm fucking shaking. I just had a baby, by the way. I was a new daddy. I'm shaking. And Gary goes, he leans on his desk, puts his elbows on his desk, leans forward and says, first of all, I want to apologize.
Whoa.
For putting you in this kind of a position. I understand that, and that Neil does what Neil, and just like real long apology and this and that, and basically, and you're fine, and just this thing that I want to do here and everything, but I understand, and that you're in a very difficult position. It's not fair to put this kind of pressure on you, and I apologize, and and then he goes on to tell me his feelings and what he expects from a producer and this, but he knows that Neil's a different situation and like that, and he goes, so you're doing a good job, and off you go. Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Bruce. And off I went. It was like that. And lesson number 1, Neil's going to win. There's a conflict between Neil and management. Neil's going to win.
And Neil's got your back. That's huge.
Well, he's not going to let me take the blame for something that he did, first of all, and a lot of other people. And by the way, I did take the blame for a lot of things that Neil did over the years just because he didn't want to be bothered. But the bottom line was you're still going to have your job. You're still going to get your check. So just sit there and let that person yell at you. I got to go. I don't want to be here for this, so you just let them yell at you for a while and then blame me, and if they give you any problems, just say that, ask them if they want to take it to me, if they want to talk to me, and then, of course, whenever I would ask someone like management that, say, do you want me to tell Neil this, what you're telling me? Oh, no, I just need to beat you up for a while over it, because I can't beat Neil up, and I'm way too pussified to even talk to him about it, so I'm just going to beat your ass over it for a while. Is that okay? Okay. It became part of my job description. Farting dog is on my description. I run the board. I answer the phones. I cut the promos. I make air checks for the sales staff. And if Neil does something that somebody doesn't like, I get to be beat up over it. And that's an honor and a privilege. That's what it is. And we're going to do another set. Come back with the members of Chamber of Dreams. Gamba. Yes. And Fingers. See? It's all about the cool names. My name is Boo Boo. 202 on the Boo Boo Rodriguez Show, SoFloRadio.com.
More listeners than any sports station anywhere. SoFloRadio.com.
The Bible. If you like the book, you'll love the board game. Introducing Go to Hell from Milton Bradley, the board game that tests your faith in God while challenging your knowledge of biblical quotes.
Okay, everybody ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, first question. The meek shall inherit the blank.
Flower.
Male pattern baldness.
The earth. The meek shall inherit the earth.
Right. You move ahead 5 spaces. Yeah. You other guys, go to hell.
Go to Hell. The exciting game where you win by forming a deep personal relationship with God before the timer runs out.
Okay, on the 7th day, God did what?
Golf. He went to one of those all-you-can-eat brunch places.
He just puttered around?
Wrong. All of you, go to hell. It was a good book, but now it's a great game. Go to Hell, the biblical board game from Milton Bradley.
Say, Mr. Businessman, you may be guilty of sexual harassment at the office without even knowing it. To find out, take this simple test. What's wrong with this remark?
And when you finish typing that report, Miss Hornblatz, I'd like to fondle your gazungas.
Figured it out? Of course. Here's what he should have said.
And when you finish typing that report, Miss Hornblatz, I'd like to fondle your gazungas, please.
Yes, courtesy is the watchword of the workplace. A simple please and thank you is a sign of mutual respect. A message from the Council for a Sex-Free America.
SoFloRadio.com. Radio's dirty little secret.
Bring spice to your life with AfterglowParties.com and tickle your fancy with an assortment of pleasure objects and toys, lotions and lubes, massage products, games, candles, and the highly sought-after vibrating sponge. Plus, so much more. Spice up your bridal shower, birthday party, or just a girl's night out. Let our experienced Glow Girls show you how with an Afterglow party. Much like a Tupperware party in the privacy of your own home. You'll have a lot of fun trying out the items, and our Glow Girl will explain how to use them. If you want an Afterglow party of your own, or just want to place an order, call 305-408-1116 or go to AfterglowParties.com. Ladies, you haven't lived until you've experienced your very own vibrating sponge. That's 305-408-1116 or go to AfterglowParties.com. We'll never tell.
Jan Michael Morris isn't just any attorney. He's your attorney. The Morris Law Office, handling your legal needs for more than 20 years, providing a wide range of legal services for those who need it most. Let Jan Michael Morris put his experience to work for you. Call Jan Michael Morris at his Boca Raton office at 561-395-4195 and speak to Jan Michael Morris directly. That's 561-395-4195. Or visit themorrislawoffice.com. Spokesperson is not an attorney.
SoFloRadio.com. Give us a call at 954-99-00036. Mobile users call 954-990-0036. And for those of you living in the past, call Butterfield 990-0036. Skype name SoFlo Radio.
Hey, asswipe, where'd you get that Sansucci amplifier? I got it at Stereos and stuff, jag off, and it only cost me $9.99. $9.99? What a deal! For the amplifier and the tuner? I also got an anti-static record cloth and 2 HLH Proud Claudio Quattro Clerk 3000 speakers that you're drooling all over, scumbag. Only $9.99? I must be some sort of Neanderthal for not having gone down to Stereos and stuff and got one already. I gotta fire some money. Gotta get my head up my head sometimes.
If you've got your head up your ass about stereos, come to Stereos and Such, located at the Bergen Shopping Mall.
They sold this radio station, now the future is in doubt. We've been talking about Paxson ever since Cox pulled out. Now we'll work for Paxson. The man's a millionaire, gonna work for Paxson. He's like Wayne with more hair. You might think that it's a bummer when Phil Hendry's gone. Say goodbye to Aaron Summers. Say hi to Ron and Ron. They're gonna work for Paxson, and that's a matter of fact. But Neil ain't changing his act. Paxson's a born-again Christian, righteous as he can be. He wants to change the station's letters to WGOD. Now we'll work for Paxson. Brand new boss. We're gonna work for Paxson. So make the sign of the cross.
Rick Riley's the Yahoo! Oh!
I'm looking all the talk show people. There's just too many talk show people.
Ron Reagan Jr., Maury and Joan and Geraldo and Oprah and Phil. I wanna kill, look at them talking, acting surprised by a person whose life is a mess. A priest in a dress, all the freaky people. Where do they all come from? I just can't stop watching, my brain is going numb. There's a new diet, Siamese twins, one's a man and the other's a goat. Where's my remote? There's Sally Jesse. She's got a gal who plays Beethoven's Fifth through her nose. I wanna propose. All the talk shows. It's all the same old stuff. I'm a talk show junkie. I just can't get enough.
Wow, 213, SoFloRadio.com. That's what Chamber of Dreams sounds like. Easy listening, something you were inspired by?
Yeah, you know, it's like John Coltrane, Miles Davis, you know.
Sure, a little bit. I was just looking through my collection, and I came across some old Chuck Mangione, the first song I heard while I was getting head. Ironically, it was Feel So Good was the name of the song.
Wow, me too.
So I can see that I can hear the inspiration of people like that. You know, little Spyro Gyra.
Oh, yeah,
things like that.
Yeah,
Kenny G was probably very formative.
Speaking about Spyro Gyra, this guy's Puerto Rican. So. Mr. Fingers on the Beta, the mother plucker himself, is Puerto Rican, so that's part of the inspiration.
I gotta take it back. We've been saying chamba all day long. It's kamba.
Kamba, yeah.
Yeah, and fingers. It used to be crazy fingers, and now it's stinky fingers.
No. Nice idea.
Wow.
We got a couple of ways to manage that here in the studio. So give us some background. What made you decide to make really loud, scary music?
Well, that's always been my.
Felt like there wasn't enough of that.
No, it's not just
we
that.
Need some more that croak metal that all the kids like.
The crunk metal. No, it's just one of those things. I just got up one day and says, I want to do something that's interesting and that's very appealing and what actually gets me. I guess at the time, it's a way to vent.
Okay.
A lot of people have a lot of things in their lives that they want to be able to get away from.
Yeah.
Some people drink, some people do this, some people that. Some people get up and dance. We have dancing can look a lot of different ways. You ever see the people in New Zealand? Oh yeah.
So you can make obviously there's moshing.
Oh, moshing.
Obviously you're made for the moshers.
Moshers, headbangers.
You encourage the moshers.
Well, it depends on the place, but we try not to.
We try not to encourage the moshers. Yeah. Sit down and listen, because
enjoy it first.
Right, it's easy lisuning, so you want to definitely sit back and relax and have yourself a nice iced tea while you're enjoying
drink some iced tea, make some honey, orange, mint tea.
This microphone's just a cheap, shitty microphone. You guys don't have any shitty microphones in your band, do you? That's right.
No.
That's right. Talking into that fingers. I'm always jealous of these people with their cool ass names. So how long you been doing this? Is this your first band?
No, I've been since high school. I've been in and out of bands. A bunch of different little bands here.
Yeah, is it because they sucked or because you sucked? Which one?
I would like to think to myself that they sucked, but no. To be honest, no one sucks. No one sucks. It's just different.
Just creative differences. Somebody gets a day job.
Something always happens. Marriage, the number one crippler of all bands, marriage.
Marriage and kids. I have been speaking against marriage since before I was married. Since I got married, I've really been doubling up my efforts. Don't get me hooked. I got a lot of lines about that.
But you got the experience.
Don't do it.
Are either of you two married?
No.
This is why you're still in the band.
You see, they're smiling.
I know. Look, they are. They're very happy.
Just look at their eyes, man. The dreams and ambitions. It's a chamber of freaking dreams.
The fire's still on. Hasn't been blown out.
No, it's still burning hot.
Those thoughts are still your own.
Yeah, they're still bubbling and everything. I have to incorporate some of
some Jorge Rodriguez originals. You can quote me just as long as you credit me afterwards.
Sure.
Don't get married until you're done doing everything you like. Right?
Sure. Agreed.
When you've done when you're ready to not do the things that you like anymore, that's when you get married. And people are like, and then they say, what about sex? And I'm like, yeah, right. That's
you can still get sex, man.
Yeah, well, it's not going to happen with your wife.
So I heard.
Yeah. And they go, you mean she's going to stop wanting to have sex with you? No, you're going to want to stop having sex with her. No matter what she looks like, because eventually she's going to look like this.
Like a little raptor.
And that's an unattractive look there. So you're doing the right thing. And I also don't understand married guys in rock bands. What a waste. That's like having gills and not going swimming.
No, man.
It's true.
It's a hot dog in the hallway, that's basically.
That's a Ted Danson joke there. You're Mr. Unoriginal. I'm going to shoot you with this rubber band. I'm just kidding. That's what we do. All our guests here get shot with a rubber band. Did Oski tell you that?
No, he didn't tell me.
I'm kidding, but watch how people flinch when you do it. All right, I'll put that away.
Right. It's like when I met you, man. You're sitting at that table, man. It was kind of scary and intimidating, man. I couldn't even walk up to you.
No, what was it? Was it in the booth? Was I in that little booth there?
I think you were in
Tobacco Road. Yeah, and I had 4 women around me.
No, 4 voluptuous, delicious women around them.
Absolutely.
And not just any woman.
I'm not going to leave the house unless. A guy invited me to a party and said, you can bring them women with you, too. And I said, I'm gonna, because I can't trust you to have any there for me.
That was kind of interesting. I could imagine maybe Oshki called you up or one of the guys over there that are performing. He said,
Oshki sent me an email,
Yeah, they said, come to Jolly Jam.
We were there, Sick Sleeve and Big Papa E and Insignia.
Miss Big Papa E, but a lot
you gotta love those groups. You gotta love them.
Dana was there. Yeah.
Dana was there from Naked Down. Was that the name of the band?
Yeah,
Is that theirs?
I just remember
Okay.
her sparkly lips.
She had sparkly lips.
And then the sparkly all over your
and
face.
yeah, she had sparkle. She was all like had glitter all over herself, and I thought that it would be good if I came home really, really late with all kinds of glitter on me, because I like to make my wife ask questions. That's
smell like a stripper and look like one too.
I have a lot of marital advice to give to the kids out there, and that's one of them. Always let your spouse know, like, and that somebody else wants to fuck you. And that'll keep them on their toes. It's just like,
that is very true.
Where'd you get all that glitter? Chick's cleavage. So now she doesn't ask anymore. I saw you talking to that chick. You probably want to fuck her. I do.
How'd you know?
Probably think she's hot. Probably want to fuck. I do, honey. I do. Would you go put a word in for me? You think you can hook it up? Because I'm not sure. I was looking for some
menage a trois.
Yeah, that would be good. My wife won't go for that. A butt plug that way. So how long have you been this? How long have you been Chamber of Horrors? I mean, dreams. Have something in your name to warn people, you know. When I heard, because I know nothing about the bands that Oski's sending over to me. He just, I get like a text or something in the more Chamber of Dreams on the show today. So I'm expecting something new age, like a chick's gonna haul a harp up the stage.
Maybe like a cello and everything.
Chamber of Dreams. Oh, some chamber music. Dreamy chamber music. This is what the name invokes. Most misleading name since Massive Attack, if you ask me. So, how long have you been doing that?
Wow, it's been a couple of years. I would say what?
More than 8.
Yeah.
You think so? Yeah. Since high school, I've been trying to get this thing kicking off and running, but it's always hard to get people there.
Who's the
focus on the same thing?
Who's the lead singer?
Myself.
Have you ever thought of a new lead singer? No.
I will fight you. I'll get that rubber band. Over the years. And I'll get this spoon.
I got
it looks like a crack spoon. What is it?
Samurai sword. It's you don't have to choose. Some people like crack, and some people like to smoke opium. So we have both options for them.
Oh, okay. Very thoughtful.
How many people in the band?
Right now, believe it or not, it's actually a trio.
Really?
Yeah, we could get that.
I've been seeing some really good 2- and 1-man acts lately. So. Watch yourself.
Yeah, man.
That's all Kamba's got to figure out is how to play 2 instruments and sing.
Cut the fingers.
Actually, I can do that sometimes.
Yeah. See there?
I got to figure out the loophole how to get this guy out. Right. We love you, man. We love you. It wouldn't be Chamber of Dreams without him.
So you would just change the name to Chamber of Horrors, and then that's it. Fewer members means more money. More money.
Bigger cut. That's true.
So 3 of you, so you have obviously drums, a bass, and a guitar. Is that how you do it?
Yes, drums, bass, guitars, and
everybody sings.
Everyone partakes,
and you can't tell.
There's no way you can tell. If I screw up, someone's gonna pick it up for me.
Yeah, that's the plan anyway.
Obviously, you're here because you've been doing something at Tobacco Road. Were you there performing that night at the job?
Yeah, I did. Actually, 2 bands right before Insignia, I believe it or not.
Ticket, I don't know. We were milling around, but we were there to see Khalid. She was one of the girls that you saw.
Yeah, downstairs.
Dreads, and have you seen her? Have you caught her act yet? She does a lot of different things, and she sings, too.
No, great performance. I saw a little bit of it.
She says stuff like, come and watch me. I can't do a Jamaican accent. Anybody?
Come and watch me, young blood.
And I say, okay. I can say rubbish, the way that she says it. That's about it. What's your next appointment? What's your next?
My next appointment actually is January 1st for the Black Sabbath tribute show.
And you will be playing Black Sabbath songs.
Well, we were playing original material. We're going to throw in a little Black Sabbath surprise in there. We won't see as of yet. You have to be at the show in order to
More than one band at the Black Sabbath tribute show?
Oh, yeah, man. A lot of great bands.
Is everyone going to play Iron Man?
I don't know. We're trying to avoid that, man. We ask around.
Do something different. Play War Pigs. Just be the one. Be the one band that doesn't play Iron Man.
Actually, I was actually thinking that.
What, Brian?
War Pigs. It just occurred to me if they needed a new lead singer for croak rock.
Yes.
Croak metal.
That's what I call it.
How about this guy?
For Dr. Sloidy's.
Have you thought of that? Jack Klugman's still around. You could probably use a paycheck.
Yeah, maybe.
That's a star, and that'll be a lot of attention to your name. The first heavy metal rock band with Jack Klugman as the lead singer.
That'd be cool. We'll have to do a side project for that one. That'll be interesting.
I'm pretty sure he could learn the lyrics really quickly. Like, look, I think he's got them down already.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm going to take another break. We're going to listen to... I'll explain what we're doing. I think I was spending a little bit doing the Vigil tribute for the Neil Rogers Show. You young punks wouldn't know anything about that. When we come back, we'll play another one of your easy listening, melodic, acoustic... slow, smooth jams. Right? Music to soak your balls in warm water by. More of that and more fun times with fingers. Not the stinky kind, not the crazy kind, just the 10 of them.
Exciting Hollywood stories with fingers in here.
I guess you must be the bass player then.
Yes, I am.
See? I get it. And Kamba from Chamber of Dreams on SoFloRadio.com.
SoFloRadio.com. Your headquarters for weed and prostitution.
SouthFloridaDiscounts.com. SouthFloridaDiscounts.com. This website is crazy. SouthFloridaDiscounts.com. Electronics, dining out, real estate, automobiles, boats, yachts, golf clubs, crazy discounts, jewelry, and more. SouthFloridaDiscounts.com. SouthFloridaDiscounts.com.
After rocking South Florida for over 30 years, she's back. And she's South Florida's classic rock again. She's only rockandroll.com. She's only
Buy the best custom full-color balloons with your photo, logo, or design that will blow your next party or event away with PhotoBalloonStore.com. Take a look for yourself and see why PhotoBalloonStore.com is the place for full-color, custom-printed photo balloons. Our balloons are not made out of rubber, latex, or mylar. They're made from a durable aluminum foil composite film that keeps them inflated longer than any other balloon sold. 11 inches in diameter, uninflated, 9.5 inches inflated. These balloons can be reinflated over and over again. Cheer on your Miami Heat basketball team at home or the arena with our version of the Miami Heat Dream Team balloon. These limited edition memorabilia balloons are available for only $6.95 for a limited time. Visit PhotoBalloonStore.com for more. Order yours today. We deliver on time and fast. PhotoBalloonStore.com.
Get a SoFlo VIP toolbar.
It's free.
Whee!
Be a SoFlo VIP and get free stuff.
Sponsor discounts.
Free apps.
Special promotions.
And more SoFlo fun. Download our VIP toolbar at SoFloVIP.com.
It's free!
To get in touch with George, call 954-990-0036 in Dubuque, 954-99-00036 in Garfield, New Jersey, and in beautiful downtown Pickacok, Iowa, 954-99-00036. You fell in love with her when she was exploited for reasons of diversion on the evening news. And now, Terry Schiavo is back, singing holiday favorites the whole family can enjoy, even if you don't have one.
Terry.
Terry put you in a coma with this insipid standard. Order your Terry Schiavo holiday CD today, and happy holidays on behalf of yellow journalists everywhere.
If he came back for Christmas, what would Jesus do? Tell Christians to kiss his ass. If he came back for Christmas, what would Jesus do? Remove their bumper stickers and tell Christians to kiss his ass. If he came back for Christmas, what would Jesus do? find a pair of pants, remove their bumper stickers, and tell Christians to kiss his ass. If he came back for Christmas, what would Jesus do? Slap Bill O'Reilly, find a pair of pants, remove their bumper stickers, and tell Christians to kiss his ass. If he came back for Christmas, what would Jesus do? Close Walmart down. Slap Bill O'Reilly, find a pair of pants, remove their bumper stickers, and tell Christians to kiss his ass. Mo Howard, the mocky bastard, has a very bulbous nose. When he gets raked or plastered, the veins on his nose will glow. Everybody hates him, except a handful of homos. Sport hoes who tolerate his crappy morning show that blows. One day the well-dressed Fred Reed asked Mo genteelly,
My CTS needs a new headlight. Would you mind if I borrowed your veins tonight?
There's another line that goes here, but I'm not allowed to mention liquids or fluids. Mo Howard, mocky bastard, nasty, cranky, bitter heat.
How, fucking how, what a crock of shit. We all work for Santa Claus, we've had enough, we quit. 'Cause we do all the fucking work while he stars in the show. Stick your Christmas up your ass, ho, fucking ho.
This is wonderful, WQM. Where you're hearing things, where you're hearing things.
Step right up, ladies and gentlemen, to see the world's biggest hooters, melons, nippleroos, sperm sponges, warheads, yah-yahs.
I'm walking through the strip club, and what did I see? I head into the bush bumps walking right at me. They look like two big headlights, I felt like a deer. I closed my eyes and screamed like hell as she came near. And thinking through my fingers, I began to moan. What are these natural wonders that made from silicone? Enormous. Enormous. I just can't help thinking they were built from a kid. Enormous. Enormous. Well, I had a bunch of dollars when I went to this place. I could swear there was a smile on old George's face. There was Nicky Knockers and Candy Cantaloupes. There was Heidi Hooters dressed up like the boat. If they had a baby and fed it from their breast, they better buy that kid a really good life vest. Enormous. Enormous. I just can't help thinking they were built from a kid. Enormous. Enormous.
Wow. I'm going to skip the song. I'm going to skip the song just this time around, Boca Brian. Not your fault, because Phil Hendry's, according to Phil, he's trying to call in, and we'll interrupt this interview with these two pikers, and in favor of Phil anytime. I'll make it up to him. I'll give him a bag of bud or something like that.
Nice.
Road flare.
Well, you're always welcome.
Hey, you do get a road flare for visiting the show today. Hello, Jorge Rodriguez Show, Phil Hendry line.
Hey, George, it's Phil.
Hi, Phil. How are you, man? Hello, Phil.
Good. Finally hooked up here, yeah.
Absolutely, it's and it's the real Phil Hendry, not Phil Hendry doing a voice. By the way, I just want to put that out there.
It's Phil Hendry doing Phil Hendry's voice. But,
it's an honor and a pleasure. We had Chuck Meyer on earlier, and we were talking about you and having a little bit of a nostalgia trip.
Yeah, well, no, it's great to talk to you, man. It's so funny because I tried to. I was watching you the other night.
Oh, on our little TV thingy?
On the video, yeah. And I was trying, I didn't know whether you were live or not. I figured you were recorded. It was recorded on demand.
We're live now, 12 to 3.
Right now, yeah. So I know you're on because I'm on late, man. So, if I sound disoriented, that's why. I'm happy to be talking to you. I'm so sorry that I did it on the air the other night. I was talking about Neil. It was Larry King was retiring, and I said, I really find it just kind of sad because Larry King deserves the accolades that he gets, and he got the accolades from the television industry. The television industry does do that.
Right.
The radio industry doesn't, for whatever reason. We're still trying to figure this out, that they don't. One of the greatest broadcasters, the greatest broadcaster that I ever knew, has left the business, and right now is very sick.
Sure.
And I don't hear any professional voice loudly proclaiming.
No, I have to explain it to people. I mean, he wasn't. They pop it on the news. He was the South Florida's highest paid radio personality. He was Florida's highest paid radio personality. You had to go to people like Howard Stern or people that were nationally syndicated to get close to his level of success and continuous success in a town where our industry is like white collar migrant labor, where people bounce from town to town. He was able to maintain that level of popularity in one place, which is very difficult, if not impossible to do.
Right, and what you just said there is absolutely the language spoken by the top level broadcasters. When we talk about the excellence of the guy, when we talk about Neil's timing, when we talk about Neil's ad-libbing, his raconteur ability, his production. I always admired the way he produced his show. I mean, you produced his show, but Neil with using his drops and the timing.
It was amazing. It was like an octopus.
The greatest that I ever heard, and I will never, all of my career I've worked at having that kind of timing. But so all of those things that made Neil great should be heralded by the top broadcasters. And when I say top, I mean the CEOs of these companies, Beasley, that he worked for. It should be a statement.
Right.
All of them, Larry King gets that and deserves it. And even with Sinatra, let's name anybody who is the best.
Sure.
It's an ongoing personal battle that I have with this industry that I learned from Neil himself. Neil used to talk about these douchebags that we worked for.
Yeah. And, he made a good point.
Yeah, he did, man. Yeah.
They're cold. The people, I don't understand. The Bob Neals, I don't even know who's in charge of Cox anymore. I haven't heard anything. I've been watching the news. Reporters have been calling and getting commentary from me. I saw Hank on there. I saw Hank on with Jorge Rodriguez. They had Duff Lindsay, the program directors. But like you're saying, no, really, none of the big names in the industry, in the radio industry, are. I don't hear anything from any of them.
Nothing, man. And I can understand talent being quiet because a lot of the younger talent, they're not aware of Neil, and that's no local. But the fact is, on a national level, everybody knew who he was. Mike Harrison from Talkers Magazine knew who he was. Walt Sabo, to his credit, has mentioned Neil a number of times. But where's just the admiration from other broadcasters doesn't exist. It's such a cutthroat business, and I understand that. But Neil, these guys, man, I just love them how they talk down each other. They couldn't touch him.
Well, we've been sharing memories. Let me set you up a little bit over here because you came in. Neil was an established show already on WIOD at the time. I remember when you first came into the station, we didn't know anything about you. I remember Neil's always. Are typically prejudiced against the new talent, especially the more good things other people say about the talent, the more they build them up, the more likely Neil is to look for something wrong. He always hated that. And that was the case with you. We heard all these things, this guy's great, and blah, blah, blah. And Neil was he was poised to shred you, in case you didn't know. He was ready. He was listening to your show, specifically looking for how am I going to shred this guy, this big shot. He did that with Alex Bennett. He did that with Stevens and Gritnick. All these people that were supposedly popular wherever they came from. You came down from Atlanta, if I do recall. That's where you were right before.
I was in actually Minneapolis.
Oh, okay. Like I said, I obviously know a lot about your career. But Neil was very pleasantly surprised, and when you started doing the voice shtick and everything, he became a huge fan of yours very quickly, very instantly, which is not usual for him. Neil had nothing but respect and admiration for the show that you did, and talked about you behind your back like I never heard him talk about anyone else on the air. He never said good and positive things about Howard Stern. He liked Suds and gave Rick Riley a hard time, but he thoroughly enjoyed the Phil Hendrie show, and he said that many times, and he would always come in and ask me, did you hear Phil yesterday? Because you followed us. So he would listen on his way home, and he would listen in his home, and he really was a huge fan of the Phil Hendrie show. How much did you know about Neil before you started working there? And that's question number one, I guess. Did you know that you were going to work at this place that had this giant guy that tore things up?
Yeah, I knew all about Neil. I knew about Neil as early as 1988. The first time I heard about Neil was in California back in '88. A friend of mine came out from Florida. We were golfing. He said to me, man, there's a guy in Miami that reminds me of you. Just his attitude, his kind of. I said, really? And so when I got to Florida and I got to Miami, I knew Bob Green had hired me to this station that was unlike any other I'd worked at. It was an entertainment-driven talk station, and I knew that Neil was really good, and just everything that you said, really critical, hypercritical, hyper funny about. He was. I think people love that about him. I just remember his Tony Segreto line, that suspender snapping douchebag.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah, I can't. Neil was so great, and he had one of the greatest talents in the world, and that was to be angry and funny at the same time.
Sure.
I've never heard anybody do it as well, and that's because that's who he was, So I knew, and I was nervous. I was scared. Mm-hmm. I was all of those things, but I said to myself, do your show. Just do your show, man.
Right.
Just do your show, and to the extent that you have to, isolate yourself or insulate yourself, you'll have to do that, because I didn't know if this kind of thing was unreasonable. If it was reasonable, you'd say, well, if I suck, I suck, but I know I don't, you know what I mean? If the dude's going to be jumping me, and I'm good, then there's no point in even, But he's ultimately an eminently fair man, and I think that took his listeners by surprise, because I did hear Neil the day somebody actually recorded it and gave it to me. Mm-hmm. Neil said, like Phil Hendrie on the air, and some dude had called and was trying to bag on me because he figured that's what Neil expected.
Right.
Neil gave the guy some crap back.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool, at least to know that. Well, at least I don't have to fight that battle,
Right. There were times when the show crossed over. Boca Brian found a copy of something that we're going to play, which is when you were late and Neil stayed on pretending to be Margaret's sister. What was it, Boca Brian? What was Margaret's sister's name? Harriet or Mildred or something. Yeah. So Neil goes on doing a voice. Pretending to be Margaret's sister to keep the audience thinking that it was you doing yet another voice. I don't know if you remember that or not, but we have a copy that we're going to play at some point, probably Wednesday.
Wednesday. Yeah.
And the other thing, while I have you on here, I want you to confirm. Well, first of all, because a lot of the audience, we're telling the audience the origins of a lot of things. The whole "you son of a bitch" thing, which Neil had that Charlton Heston drop, and you made an entire show out of the fact that an old man called up at the end of Neil's show, and he called at the end and spoke to me, and I didn't take him seriously. This illustrates the difference. One man's garbage is another man's gold. This old man kept calling me up. Saying, there's a voice saying, you son of a bitch. And I'm like, you stupid old tard. Neil's playing a part, and you don't even know. And I would just hang up on him and dismissed him out of hand. He called. This was right at the end of the show, right at 2 o'clock. So he calls again, but this time it was the changing of the card. And Andy was there, or you were answering the phone screenless, and you guys decided that was something that you could make something out of, and you got an hour out of fucking with that old guy. With the "you son of a bitch" cart that Neil left right there in the machine. So you kept playing it. You kept it going, and you kept pretending that you didn't hear it, but he did, and he's going crazy. And I forget what you made that poor old man do. I mean, you made the one woman take off her shoes and dial the phone with her nose. I don't remember what you finally made that guy do, but I'm sure you probably had him hang himself or something. I don't know.
I remember that. Yeah, and that is another example of the essence of what I think Neil was about. And the greatest thing about working with Neil is you sort of had permission to go ahead and explore everything. It sounds crazy, but frankly, there's no program director on the planet Earth that's going to give you the kind of impetus and the inspiration. And so we would create these things on the air to the delight of the audience, to the amazement of and probably the very stern disapproval of traditional broadcasters, but we would do these things. And remember that, George. I can't tell you how it. I do remember hitting this, you son of a bitch, and it was a guy would say, "There it is again, there it is again,"
and you're like, I don't hear it. And I think you were in a voice. It might have been a Margaret, one of your characters going, I don't hear it. And you had this man. He probably Baker acted himself. He probably called 911 on himself after that. You had him convinced that he was crazy.
Yeah. Well, what's funny, I think I remember, and of course I always involved Andy Calvin, all that stuff. Let me get Andy Calvin. It'd be a fake voice. Let me get, or the Bob Green voice that we did,
Right. While we're sharing memories, by the way, one of the funniest things that I was ever witness to and a part of in my life, and this is the most unique set of circumstances in the world, is when you were doing every once in a while you would do the fake representative from Cuba, the fake guy. It was the representative from Castro, and you always had, and I think it was like during the holiday times, when you would have a message from Castro by, like, the ambassador from Cuba or something. I forget what you titled this guy. And you always got me to teach you how to say one phrase in Spanish, and it was always something ridiculous. Like, you would tell me what you wanted to say. For example, Castro wants the exile community to go take a flying, crap and go fuck themselves with their father's penis or something like that in Spanish. You had the phrase all figured out, and you just needed to know how to say it in Spanish. So I would write it out for you, write it out phonetically. We would go over it a couple times so that you had it down well. By the way, Phil Hendry, for the people that don't know, like the people in the studio, is one of the most perfect mimics that I've ever encountered in my life, where you can just repeat what you hear and make it sound that way, including pronunciation and accent and inflection and everything. So it only took me a couple times to teach you the phrase, and we did this twice. But the second time, and you would go on there and you would translate it. You would go on there with a Spanish accent, and you impersonated me once with a Spanish accent. I kept that. I treasure it. 10 minutes of Phil Hendry impersonating me. I play it for all my friends. When you were getting me fired for Stick to Stick, you remember that? Do you Stick to Stick?
Yeah.
And I still say plantation the way that you say it to this day. Plantation. So anyway, the plan is going off as planned. You say to the audience, as the Castro representative, I have a holiday greeting for the exile community. In English, it's Fidel Castro would like to extend his warmest wishes to the exile community. And let them know that they were always welcome to come back to Cuba, and let's put our differences aside. Something very peace and love and happiness is what you would say. And then in Spanish, you would say something like, Castro says you can all go fuck yourselves and fuck your mother and this and that. And you would recite that perfectly. Well, you remember this, right? I don't know if you remember the second time that you did that shtick. Of course, a crotchety old Cuban man calls up, and he's livid, and he can't speak any English, and he's cursing you in Spanish. And I'm in the control room putting carts away. And I'm not even watching what's going on. I'm kind of listening to it. And Andy smacks me on the back and, like, points to you. And you're waving your arms, and you're, like, pointing, just pointing at the phone and pointing at the mics. And, we didn't have good talk. And I hear the guy that's going on, and basically the guy's yelling at you, and you don't know what to say back. You have no idea what the guy is saying. And I could say something in his ear, but then he won't know what it is. And I could hit on, because you wore headphones for the talkback. So instead, I just said something. I just pressed the talkback and I just said something in Spanish. Singa tu madre, like that. And then you would just repeat it, like with accent, with perfect pronunciation. And the guy's like, what? Eres un hijo de puta, like whatever, whatever the appropriate response to whatever the guy was saying, I would say it to you, and you'd like, without any delay, you were saying it back to the guy. So now you got this screaming match in Spanish back and forth on the air, and I'm crying tears, and Andy's like, this must be funny. He's looking at us both, because the guy was just going, he's just going ape shit. And it was funny. I hurt myself. I think I bust a blood vessel in my eye. I was laughing so hard. I don't remember how long that went on. Way too long. I should have stopped sooner. But I got a lot of fun. And last thing. I mean, I want to do more. I'm going to take you up to the top, because I'm going to milk you for all your worth, because you're the great Phil Hendry. I want you to confirm to the audience, because I just got done telling the story, that when you did the burning dog, it was with my bag of chips that I gave you.
Yes, I don't even remember it, man, but yes, I would.
The burning dog is a lot of people's favorite. Look, I got a bag of Halls over here.
Oh, my God.
And you asked for a sound effect, and I said, we don't have any canned fire sound effects, but here, use a bag of chips, old radio trick. And you you were like crinkled it in your ear, and you said, that'll work, and you never gave me the chips back. I think it were a bag of Cheetos. I think you took them home and ate them.
For you to come back after that break and still burn the dog.
that dog took longer to burn.
Must have been a big
so
dog.
funny, and I mean, literally, how it was that we made comedy out of those grotesque stories. That was a story about some prick that
we were sick.
We turned that into comedy, yeah.
We were sick, and we always did. One time you did a thing with Kim Bocamper. That was the one time that you got me good. You had Bocamper call in and pretend to be genuinely pissed, and I ate it up with a ladle. I thought, oh my God, Phil did it this time, boy. Kim and Bocamper can't be in the building at the same time. Kim's gonna crush him like an egg. And I felt so stupid. I go, I can't believe I fell for a Phil Hendry thing. I'm just stupid. I'm going to go hide now because I should know better.
Was that really Kim? That was really Kim?
You got him to call. You got the real Kim Bocamper to call in, and you guys went back and it was perfect because you're like, oh, Kim, I'm just playing it. And Kim was just serious. Like, obviously you worked it out with him where he would just be deadly serious. And
I didn't tell you this, but you remember the whole thing with Brian Cox and the Miami Dolphins?
Yes.
Well, years later, after all that all got settled, Brian Cox went to work for Premier Radio as one of the sports guys.
Okay.
And I met him at a party, and there he was, all 6'5" of this dude. And I meet his wife, and she was the most gracious, nicest lady. She said to me, Brian has grown a lot, and
there's a comeback to that.
That's kind of what an asshole he was, but in point of fact, he's so it was really different. I mean, it's kind of weird. Like everything that we said about him, which is you're a jock, you don't belong in a broadcast studio. Who do you think you are? I'm not going to go. He took it to heart. He eventually took it to heart. So that whole Dolphin era was really weird, but, that's how.
Hey, Brian, are you happy? I hate WIOD again. Suck my dick. But I'm happy.
Real life, Phil did a lot of fantasy and a lot of made-up stuff, but the reality of what was going on around us, that was real, and it was funny, and nobody could make any of that stuff up. I always, I tell people are always asking me, people on the outside asking me, what's Phil Hendry really like? And And I say it's an amazing thing to watch. I said your eyes can't reconcile what your ears are hearing when you watch Phil just swing his head back and forth from phone to microphone, without somehow remembering which voice to use into each device, like he's got two brains. That was one of the things that I would say about you behind your back. And the other thing is wow, I was just listening to the Phil show. How much work, how much planning, how much rehearsing does he do for every show? And I'd say, Phil, because we were allowed to smoke in the building in those days, and I'd say, at 10 or 15 minutes before the Phil Hendry show, the door of the control room would open. Phil would be standing there with a freshly lit cigarette. He would say, George! And he would take, in one single drag, smoke the length of the cigarette. He would go, George!
You still smoke? You still smoke? Phil?
And you go, I got no fucking show! And with the exhaling smoke from your mouth, you'd go, I got no fucking show! And you would be in a panic, and whoever was around would just start throwing ideas at you. And you're like, I don't know! And then you would walk in there and do an amazing show that sounded like you rehearsed for 10 hours and you scripted it and practiced it with people, things. So,
I think I used to go into a much more of a panic than I have to, and I've learned in the years since that you really, to do the kind of show that I do, I really need to have an idea that's really, really, that's real, that the audience is going to, that they're going to have an opinion about, and then just create. I think there's a cross there, and I said to Neil once, what kind of prep do you do?
Mm-hmm.
I write things down, but it doesn't matter. Neil was hysterical to me, because I'd say, what kind of prep do you do, Neil? He goes, I write some stuff down. It doesn't matter to these pricks.
He would write 2 or 3 words in the margin of the log. That was show prep for him.
Exactly. See, he'd be at home. I write some stuff down. I try to, it's as if Neil was saying, I try to really work hard on this show, but when I come in here, the assholes don't appreciate me,
Well, when I started filling in for him, I would read everything and buy magazines and watch this news show and that news show. And I got a notebook in front of me here. I hold it up for the audience. Carry a notebook around with me everywhere. If I get an idea or something that I want to say, I got to write it down. God forbid I should forget it by showtime. And you walk in, you start a show, you say a couple things, and the next thing you know, the show's off in its own direction. All of your hard work, everything that you wanted to talk about, they don't give a rat's ass about that. Somebody burned a dog. We're going to talk about that all day. That's all they want to talk about. There's no telling what's going to have legs.
It's so true, and it's hard to control. That's why what you do, and to a large extent what Neil did. You guys do kind of let it. It's a far more improv show than what I do, because I have to take that audience, or at least the caller base, and I got to grab them by the scruff of the neck, and I got to stick their face into this ceiling fan of material that I brought. And you respond to this, and if they don't, of course, you have to kind of ad-lib your way through it. But that's why I don't think anybody, man. I can't think of anybody in the years since I've been to Miami and the years before. Nobody could do the show that Neil Rogers did, and there's a clip on YouTube, George, of Neil doing a remote from the bazaar,
like a flea market kind of thing.
An entire crowd of people there, man.
Sure.
And he's just got them enraptured while he's eating his pizza.
That's right. No, I know the video.
Yeah, and it's just great,
an amazing
man.
phenomenon.
And what I'm saying is, what he taught me, I will never forget. And I love Neil, and even as I speak to you now, my father, and Neil's not gone, and I shouldn't talk this way, but my father had exactly what Neil is experiencing right now, exactly. He had a series of strokes. There was dementia. Maybe I make a connection.
Right.
But I can tell you, I don't know, but I can tell you when I think of Neil, he was, in a lot of ways, if Neil was here right now, he would tell me, Hendry, shut your mouth, and cut the shit. But in a lot of ways, he was like the father to the child, and taught me a lot about, you know what I'm saying, man? I mean, to you, George, every day, you were there and you saw this.
Yeah, well, as a professional father, I didn't know anything about talk radio other than I thought it was boring and for old people before I started. And that's even after a year and a half at IOD working with all these other people. I still didn't hear anything that I wanted to be a part of. I was reconsidering talk radio at all. This isn't for me. There's nothing here for me. This is, oh God. I mean, it was just a job. I didn't. If you'd have bet me before I started doing the Neil Rogers Show, if you'd have bet me that this was going to be my career, I'd have lost my ass. Did you ever get a chance to go see him? Because I heard rumors that you were going to try. I'm
going to come down there. No, I'm coming down there either this week or the following week. Yeah.
Okay. Well.
And I have to do it sooner rather than later because I just feel like I need to. But the problem is just finding the day and getting my ass on.
Yeah, I took too long. I took too long. Also, my schedule. I just
I'd love to have you stop by when you're in town.
Visit our humble abode, or if nothing else, we'll smoke a cigarette together. Well, you and Brian can smoke a cigarette together.
Okay. I stopped smoking. I was in the hospital a year ago with pneumonia. I quit smoking, man.
Oh, yeah?
I've been off cigarettes. A year on December 26th. Yeah. So
I remember you used to go wipe out an entire carton of Marlboro before the show.
Fiend.
It was
fiend.
I bought it.
Well,
I remember George used to say to me, I walk in, he'd say, Hendry, you're an evolutionary cul-de-sac.
This is true. That's a quote. Wow, good memory, because you didn't have any kids.
If you were reading a book on genetics or something, that was George.
I was actually in the middle of arguing with my friends because I was having children and they weren't, and I say, you're genetic dead ends, all of you. Evolutionary cul-de-sacs. I made that up to rip them, and it carried on to you.
So I got it. Bill, you got kids, though. You're an evolutionary cul-de-sac.
Billions of years of evolution for nothing. It all ends with you, asshole. Oh, Phil, it's a pleasure. We had some really, really good times. Please look me up when you come into town. We'll...
There's no way I won't. There's no way in hell I will not be in touch with you guys when I get there. And I will be there within 7 to 10 days, something like that, man. So,
we'll make time for you.
Thank you so much for that, man. All the best to our brother Neil and everybody in South Florida. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Phil.
Thanks, Phil.
Okay, man.
Bye-bye. the great Phil Hendry, and
wow,
that's his amazing talent. And everything that we said was true. Neil shredded everybody, and sometimes he gave people a little bit of slack. But if he did hear a lot of hype up ahead of time, he hated hype, and he was. I remember that. Who's this guy? Here, this guy Phil Hendry's coming in to replace. I think it was to replace Alex Bennett. I know the people were tripping around. Rick and Suds were in the morning in those days. Phil was on in the afternoon, and then it was Rick and Suds in the afternoon after the Great Divide. These guys here, thank you so much for being cool. While we still have time, and didn't get a chance to play some more, but you're going to be back on again. We do make goods in radio and on this show. Thanks for being cool. It's like, and I told him during the break, if this guy Phil comes in, I'm going to act like I don't know you people.
And just showing us
the guy's huge. But tell us where you're going to be next. Make sure that we get the plugs in for you.
Oh, definitely, man. January 1st.
All right.
We're on at 11 p.m. Tobacco Road. Remember, T Road, the one place. 98 years, man. 98 years in the making, man. Great venue.
Absolutely.
Great venue.
There all the time. Way more than my wife wants me to be.
I saw you there.
What next?
I know. Yeah, man, that's going to be an amazing show. It's going to be fun. A lot of great bands.
Does that show have a name? The January 1st show?
Yeah, it's going to be the Black Sabbath tribute show.
Oh, that's what you mentioned that, and you're all playing Iron Man. I forgot. We already had it.
No. We will try to avoid Iron Man because I imagine everyone's going to do Iron Man too.
Everybody, man.
Yeah, and it's a great show. I mean, contact us. www.myspace.com/Chamber of Dreams Band.
Chamber of Dreams, not easy listening, not like you think. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Kamba, Fingers, Boca Brian, Monica. Are we out of here, Boca Brian?
We're gone.
SoFloRadio.com. I'm Jorge Rodriguez. Back on Wednesday, the Neil Rogers Vigil /tribute, paying homage to a great man, continues on SoFloRadio.com.
Bye. This is the South Florida Radio Network.
I'm Tom Hopkins for South Florida's News, Traffic, and Weather Station. News Talk Radio 610 WIOD. News Talk Radio 610 WIOD presents Rick and Suds. Now.